innovation event, which is kind of had to change itself because of nature's call, which is because of so much rain around. And imagine how much, so many farmers sitting here, how much uncertainty do they deal every day? And that's what they're dealing, and they still be able to innovate, survive. So Nasik city is not only a fertile one area where we actually grow food out of land. And thank you to all the farmer entrepreneurs that आप लोग के कारण ये possible है. And thanks to Sahyadri Farms for hosting here. So we have multiple sets of people here. My humble request to all the panelists here is keep the answers short. I've got 2 or 3 questions for all of you. And that will allow us to engage into a much more longer discussion. We have investors, we have innovators, we have farmers, we have representation for farmer producer company, and from the NBFC also, and investors also. So it's a very mixed set of audience. And I'll kind of direct question to each one of them. Sukrit, my first question to you would be, do startups innovate in conference rooms? And like farming is a very ground level, hearing from the ground activity. If so many startups here, what one learning should startups and investors also kind of take today back with them? If that was that one learning, what would you kind of give them advice?
Good afternoon. Myself, Sukrut Burade. Actually, I'm a MBA in Marketing and International Business. So right now, I'm handling my own farms. I'm associated with Sahyadri from past 20 years. So coming to the question, yes, I mean, the startup should come to the farmers. That's the place where it all begins. They should know what are the farmer demands and what they need. Because according to that, they can design the product and which can scale to a large quantity and get them venture capitalists. The product, or let's say the startup, should take into consideration the local climatic conditions also, whether it's climate based or whether, let's say, the workforce based, which previously the previous panel, there was a guy who had made a startup in labor management. So they should all consider the things, and the best place you can get the inputs is from the farmers, because they are the, you can say, the foremost, the ground level where these things are getting started. And few things they should keep in consideration, such as the cost, because the cost is one of the main factors here in farming in table grapes. And also one more thing is how the startups, I mean, let's say if they give an XYZ service or a product, how easy it can be used by farmer also, and also by another parties which are involved in that. Because basically everything is related to agriculture, and let's say if a guy that he had done the labor management tool, and if he didn't consider what are the challenges of farmer regarding labor, so I mean it won't success. So basically, yes, the startup should come in farms. They should know the difficulties of farmers, and by then they can design their own plans according to it.
So conference room में बैठ के काम नहीं करना चाहिए, ground level पे काम करना चाहिए.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one key learning I think we can take. You don't build in conference rooms. Praveen ji, you've built like a very innovative model for Bharat. There is, everyone talks about India and Bharat, and today's Bharat Innovation, Agri Innovation Manthan. You built for Bharat. And how did you become successful building for Bharat? And what was that, what were you able to Indianize here? Can you kind of, what myth did you break about Indianizing something?
Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thanks to give me a chance to participate in this kind of conferences and all. First of all, the main question is regarding the India and Bharat. Yes, I would like to make this what contradictory happening in India. Most of the time, the technology is already available in Europe, other countries. Most of the entrepreneurs trying to bring the technology directly to the India. And what exactly happening? There is a bridge, there is a gap between the requirement and what they are trying to give. So what AgroFab is doing, AgroFab is one kind of first generation entrepreneur, that is a story of first generation entrepreneur. There is nothing in his hand on the first day. When you get to succeed, there is lots of things you can say that initially I do have lots of planning. I was thought that I will bring this business to that level. तो इसमें एग्रोफैब ने ऐसा जो शुरू किया है वो 20 बाय 20 के शेड में चालू किया एक स्टोरी था. तो बेसिकली जैसे सुकृत जी को फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था कि आपका जो एंटरप्रेन्योर है, आपका जो बिजनेस मॉडल है वो कॉन्फ्रेंस रूम में बन रहा है. तो मेरा एक थॉट रहेगा फॉर द न्यू एंटरप्रेन्योर्स कि आपका जो थॉट है या आप कुछ बनाने जा रहे हैं उसका डायरेक्टली रियलिटी से कुछ डायरेक्टली कोरिलेशन होना बहुत ज़रूरी है, एक अलाइन होना ज़रूरी है. तो भारत में जो रिक्वायरमेंट है, देयर इज़ अ ट्रेमेंडस ह्यूज रिक्वायरमेंट. My company is only 9 years young. I have started in 2016 and I was not aware of anything. I don't aware of any incubation, taxes, whatsoever is there. लेकिन हमने जब वो स्टार्ट किया था वो एक कॉन्सेप्ट था कि जो टेक्नोलॉजी ऑलरेडी एडप्ट की जा रही है इंडिया में, व्हाट इज़ द लैकुना बिहाइंड. द बेस्ट थिंग वाज कि उसमें कॉस्ट डिफरेंस बहुत ज़्यादा था, सेल्स आफ्टर सर्विस का प्रॉब्लम था. तो एक एंटरप्रेन्योर को पेन पॉइंट कलेक्ट करना एक सबसे बड़ी बात होती है. आई थिंक दैट इज अ मिसिंग पॉइंट. आप आपके जो प्रोडक्ट आप बना रहे हो आप उसको प्यार करते हो, वो आपका बेबी है. लेकिन आपका बेबी अगर जिसको चाहिए, जिसको देना है, इफ ही इज नॉट हैप्पी विद इट, देन व्हाट एग्जैक्टली हैपन. दैट इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट हैपनिंग विद द लॉट्स ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स कि आप उसको बेचना चाहते हो. द क्वेश्चन इज उसको खरीदना कौन चाह रहा है. दैट इज बिगेस्ट डिफरेंस इन भारत एंड इंडिया. And I am trying to sort it out. आज हमारे इधर अगर आप देखेंगे there is a lots of problem statement and still today is unsolved. उसको बहुत ज़्यादा रिक्वायरमेंट है. अभी अगर एक फार्मर के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से अगर मैं देखूँ, अभी वीड कंट्रोल मैनेजमेंट एक बहुत बड़ा पेन पॉइंट है. सुक्रू जी, am I right? तो वीड कंट्रोल के लिए आज के डेट में बहुत ज़्यादा एक बड़ा पेन है. Why not any startup comes in front and trying to solve this problem? आपको बेसिकली आई थॉट देयर वाज अ गाय इनिशियली आस्किंग कि जो स्टार्टअप्स है उनको पता नहीं है कि ये फंड्स कहाँ से. बेसिकली आपका आइडिया अगर ऐसा है ना, तो अगर सोशल मीडिया पे अगर आप देखेंगे कोई कॉन्सेप्ट है, उसको जैसे सोशल मीडिया पे डाला है सर, देयर आर मिलियंस ऑफ व्यू. क्यों है? क्योंकि उसको आपको नहीं बेचना है, उसको मैं खरीदना चाहता हूँ. तो बेसिकली स्टार्टअप को वो करना है आप क्या बनाना पसंद कर रहे हो, इससे बढ़िया व्हाट एग्जैक्टली द एंड यूजर इज डिमांडिंग. तो ये स्टार्टअप कॉन्फ्रेंस रूम से चालू तो हो सकता है, लेकिन उसका एंड फील्ड पे होना बहुत जरूरी है. एंड दैट व्हाट एग्रोफैब इज डूइंग राइट नाउ.
Brilliant, Praveen ji. So I think one message with Praveen ji saying build to grow, not build to sell. Okay, and now that's the reason I would come to Ritu. Ritu, when you evaluate agri startups, how do you separate hype from investability? Also, how do you ensure that the investment analyst is not investing from a conference room, but on the ground there?
So I think no startup, I don't care which industry you are in, if you're not close to your customer or you don't understand what the customer wants to buy, आपके पास business ही नहीं है. So when you go to evaluate a business, it works along those lines as well, right? So आप customer से बात करोगे, आप problem समझोगे, then only can you make the investment, right? So yes, you have to come back to the conference room by taking all the information that you have got to the field to synthesize it and say क्या opportunity क्या है, क्योंकि छोटे business भी हो सकते हैं, बड़े भी business भी हो सकते हैं, और scalability बीच में आती है यहाँ पे. But any eventual business, ultimately you have to understand the pain point being addressed. And is there a pain point, is there a willingness to pay, और उस पे पैसा देंगे कि आप पैसा बना सकते हो कि नहीं बना सकते हो. So I don't think there's any shortcut for that. So it's no shortcut in agri either.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a hype. So I mean, it all sounds like a hype. We all read media channels and also it all sounds like a hype. But once you go into the business, there's no hype. It's a, once you start digging deeper, you've forgotten what business it is. It's just a business.
I have a lot of questions for you, Ritu, and I'll come back to you. I would like to move on to Purvi. Now, since we're talking about capital, Purvi, and you represent an NBFC for us, how do we kind of look at, we always say farmers don't have access to easy capital. I'm not only referring to farmers, but everyone associated with the agri ecosystem. Let it be seed suppliers, everyone. How do NBFCs, do you think, will break the myth about giving access of capital to farmers in a more modern world? Matlab, ek saukar is like a bad word for a farmer, okay? And I believe NBFCs would like to break that myth. How would you break that myth for us?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. This is more of an aspiration for me than, where I can share a lot of knowledge. Before I answer your question, I want to say something on a personal note. When I was growing up, when I was going to college, I thought of becoming, farmer. कि farming भी कर सकते हैं. And I come from a pure urban family. तो बहुत मेहनत करने के बाद पता चला कि हम ज़मीन खरीद ही नहीं सकते क्योंकि हम फार्मर है ही नहीं. So I can become doctor, I can become engineer, I can become entrepreneur, but I cannot become farmer. Not even by acquiring some knowledge. Maybe कहीं जाके मैंने पढ़ाई कर ली, फिर मेरे को फार्मर बनने का लाइसेंस मिल जाए, ऐसा कोई प्रोविजन ही नहीं है. That made me think that how privileged it is to become a farmer. And we often do not appreciate this privilege. Only people who cannot become farmer can see this as a privilege. Otherwise, farmer को हमेशा ऐसे ही देखा जाता है कि अरे बहुत परेशानी, बहुत problem. Nobody wants to become farmer. The next generation doesn't want to become a farmer. But to me, as somebody who never had this opportunity, I always see this as a huge privilege, to become a farmer, that you cannot become a farmer. Okay, coming to NBFC, wearing my professional hat. We are a microfinance company, and we work with women. 70% of our portfolio at an industrial level and at a company level भी rural areas में है. तो farmer के साथ काम तो कर ही रहे हैं. But हम एक कंपनी की तरफ से इसमें काफ़ी अच्छे से पेनिट्रेट करके बहुत फोकस्ड प्रकार की लैंडिंग करना चाहते हैं, जो क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट एग्रीकल्चर हो, जो नए तरह के इक्विपमेंट्स है, नए तरह का टेक्नोलॉजी है, वो सबको हम फंड करना चाहते हैं. Some 4-5 things that I'll talk as, where the challenges are for us also. First thing is the scalability. If you want to fund any new technology, any new innovation, any new product, our dependency on that product and technology is so high that if that technology or product fails, तो वो scale up ही नहीं कर पाते हम. So एक product को उसके पीछे हमें पूरा नया financing का infrastructure कैसे onboarding करे, कैसे credit करे, risk करे, वो सब करने के बाद अगर हम उसको scale up नहीं कर सकते, तो वो बहुत बड़ा challenge रहता है. And I'm sure this challenge would be for anybody who wants to be in this space, scalability. So एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म हो जहाँ पे थोड़ा सा सैंडबॉक्स में डाल के कुछ बना के फिर देखे कि हाँ ये स्केलेबल है, and then lot of mainstream people should be interested, to fund. Second thing, when it comes to agriculture, and I'm talking about pure play NBFC, जो main market या एकदम से कमर्शियल तरह से अगर देखें, तो सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज ये रहता है कि हमें क्रेडिट कैसे करना है या उसका रिस्क कैसे इवैल्यूएट करें, वो हम नहीं कर पाते. क्रेडिट बिकॉज ऑफ नॉन अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ लॉट ऑफ डेटा, चाहे वो लैंड से रिलेटेड हो, चाहे इनकम से रिलेटेड हो, चाहे रीपेमेंट कैपेसिटी के रिलेटेड हो, इसका कोई फॉर्मल डेटा कहीं पे अवेलेबल नहीं होता है. सो हम जाके कैसे देख सकते हैं कि इनका इनकम कितना है? इट इज़ ओनली द एस्टिमेट दैट वी कैन टेक. हमें कोई कॉन्क्रीट डेटा नहीं मिल पाता कहीं से भी कि इनको सही में, जैसे सैलरीड क्लास है या बिजनेस है जो रिटर्न फाइल करा या सैलरी स्लिप दे लो, समथिंग विच इज़ लिटिल फॉर्मल. क्रेडिट इवैल्यूएट करना बहुत मुश्किल होता है. किसको 50,000 दे, किसको 5 लाख दे, किसको 10 लाख दे, वो समझना बहुत मुश्किल होता है मेन स्ट्रीम कमर्शियल फाइनेंस कंपनी के लिए. थर्ड थिंग, द रिस्क एसोसिएटेड, क्योंकि क्रेडिट आपका बिल्कुल ब्लाइंड फोल्डेड है कि अच्छा इनके घर में 2 कैटल है, 2 बीघा ज़मीन है, तो एक कैटल का 3,000 रुपया महीने का मोटा मोटी बचता है, तो 2 कैटल मतलब 6,000 हो गया. 2 बीघा ज़मीन या 2 एकड़ ज़मीन है तो इतना ले लो. नाउ दिस आर वेरी जेनरिक एजम्पशंस एंड दैट मे नॉट बी ट्रू फॉर ऑल द फार्मर्स, क्योंकि जोग्राफी वाइज, क्रॉप वाइज, क्लाइमेट के इम्पैक्ट वाइज ये सारा अलग अलग होता है. सो आवर एबिलिटी टू underwrite the customer is a very big challenge. And then the risk associated with it. क्योंकि क्लाइमेट के इवेंट, चाहे वो हीट वेव्स ले लीजिए या रेन का अनप्रडिक्टेबिलिटी, ऑल दिस थिंग्स आर डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड. सो हमने फंडिंग कर दी और वेदर इवेंट की वजह से ख़राब हो गया, तो वी आर स्टिल बाउंड टू पे टू द the people who have funded us. It could be public sector banks, it could be development financial institutions, it could be foreign institutions. So how do we underwrite that risk? और हम जब vulnerable लोगों के साथ काम करते हैं, जो कि हम करना चाहते हैं, तो हम खुद बहुत vulnerable हो जाते हैं. तो वो कैसे secure करें कि हम इसके पीछे काम कर सकते हैं? That is the other challenge that we have on mainstreaming. And last is a rate of interest. जनरली फार्मिंग सेक्टर में किसानों का ये एक्सपेक्टेशन रहता है कि उनको सस्ते से सस्ता, हो सकता है तो मुफ्त वाला पैसा मिल जाए. बट द रियलिटी फॉर अ कमर्शियल इंस्टीट्यूशन लाइक आस इज़ कि ये अनसिक्योर्ड लैंडिंग है. तो अनसिक्योर्ड लैंडिंग, उसका कलेक्शन का चैलेंज इज़ द कॉस्ट ऑफ ऑपरेशन इज़ वेरी हाई, टिकट साइज़ बहुत छोटे होते हैं, उसका रिस्क बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. सो अगर ये सब चीज़ें आप बिल्ड कर दो रेट के अंदर, तो वो रेट काफ़ी ज़्यादा हो जाता है. तो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट का जो एक्सपेक्टेशन है और हम जो ऑफ़र कर सकते हैं रियलिस्टिकली जस्ट टू बी सस्टेनेबल, नॉट मेकिंग ह्यूज मनी, तो वो काफ़ी मिसमैच हो जाता है. सो दिस आर द 4-5 थिंग दैट रियली prevents us from scaling up as we speak.
Thanks पूर्वी. इमेजिन कीजिए फार्मर्स इतने चैलेंजेस के बाद भी सर्वाइव और थ्राइव करता है, और आज जो अपने लंच भी खाया होगा वो यहीं से फार्मर से आया हुआ है. सो थैंक्स. आई वुड लाइक टू कम टू सुरेश जी. सुरेश जी, आप एक FPC रन करते हैं एंड आप एस्पायर करते होंगे सह्याद्री फार्म जैसा और FPCs इंडिया में बने, एंड वी हर्ड अबाउट सो मेनी FPCs टुडे. आपका जो FPC स्केल अप करने में जो सबसे ज़्यादा चैलेंज आ रहा है आज के दिन, कि अगर सह्याद्री फार्म को आप मॉडल करना चाहेंगे, उनसे इंस्पायर होकर आप कुछ करना चाहेंगे, तो आपको क्या चैलेंजेस आ रहे हैं FPCs को स्केल अप करने में इंडिया में? और गवर्नमेंट के लोग भी हैं यहाँ पे, अगर आपको उनको कुछ मैसेज पास करना है कि ये रेगुलेशन में चेंज कीजिए, हम स्केल अप कर पाएंगे.
सर नमस्कार. मैं दत्तगुरु फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनी से सूर्यजी शिंदे हूँ. हमारे एरिया में जो कम्युनिटी होती है हल्दी, तूर, चना, सोयाबीन, फोकसली हमारा काम हल्दी में है. जब किसान लोग हमारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में माल लेके आते हैं तो भी गवर्नमेंट को मंडी से देना पड़ता है 1%. जब वो पूरा सेटअप FPC का है तो मंडी से गवर्नमेंट ने छूट देना चाहिए. क्या कि गवर्नमेंट मंडी के परचेस के बाहर हम करते हैं, खुद का FPC का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाने वाला है, तो भी गवर्नमेंट को हर साल को वो जो मार्केट से देना पड़ता है, वो FPC के अगर बच गया तो उतना हम किसान को 1% बढ़ के दे सकते. किसान का भी फायदा हो जाएगा और किसान सीधा FPC को जुड़ जाएगा. ये फायदा हो सकता है.
और क्या चेंज करना चाहेंगे सुरेश जी, अगर आप मैसेज पास करना चाहेंगे FPCs को स्केल करने के लिए, अगर बड़ा बनाना है FPC इसको, जैसे एक सह्याद्री फार्म से एक साइजेबल FPC बना है, अगर आपका FPC सह्याद्री फार्म से बड़ा होना चाहेगा, तो आप क्या चेंज कर सकते हैं, या क्या रेगुलेटर या इन्वेस्टर से आपको क्या एक्सपेक्टेड रहेगा?
बड़ा स्केल पे काम करना है तो बड़ा कैपिटल लगेगा सर. बड़ा कैपिटल होने के बाद वैल्यूम बढ़ेगा तो FPC का भी प्रॉफिट बढ़ेगा. किसान अगर एक आधा बड़ा बायर है, हम छोटे FPC है, समझो उसका कई 1000 टन 2000 टन का वैल्यूम है, हम छोटे स्केल पे हमारे कैपिटल पे अगर वो चीज़ नहीं दे सकते, अगर बड़ा बायर को कॉन्फिडेंस है कि ये FPC अपने को अच्छा माल देगा और क्वांटिटी में देगा, तो इसलिए हमारे पास कैपिटल की जो कमी है, और हमको तो मालूम है हम दे सकते हैं, लेकिन किसान लोगों को जो तुरंत कैपिटल देना है, उनके दाम का जो माल का जो दाम देना है, इसलिए जो FPC के पास जो कैपिटल नहीं रहता है, इसके कारण अगर कैपिटल बढ़ गया FPC के पास तो क्वांटिटी में जो बड़े बायर है उसको सप्लाई कर सकते हैं हम.
थैंक यू सुरेश जी. सो इफ यू थिंक अबाउट इट दैट वी हैव access to capital is still a large problem. Let it be from banks because of absence of data, and I'm sure a lot of startups will solve the data problem at some point of time. But access to even investable capital, even in FPCs. Have we had a fund? Can we think about this forum? Do we have a fund which will invest in FPCs? We have had Sahyadri as a great model here, but do we have a fund which will invest in FPCs in some form and format? There's certainly a gap, and we already have a successful model that FPCs work. I know there have been models where FPCs have failed. And now coming to Tushar from an FPC perspective. Tushar, Sahyadri is scaled, and you've been a part of that journey of scale. With how do you ensure the scale also ensures profitability for the farmers? Okay, in so many years that we've seen EBITDA growth for Sahyadri farms, but I'm sure farmers have also grown. How do you balance this correctly, that farmers also grow collectively as much as the farmer-producer company grows also?
Thank you, sir. Basically, what we learned from Sahyadri's experience, the scale and profit, they are hand in hand. If you do not achieve the particular scale, achieving this profitability is also big challenge. सह्याद्री के केस में जैसे विलास सर के प्रेजेंटेशन में भी एक बात आई थी कि एज अ स्मॉल स्केल फार्मर 2 एकड़ 3 एकड़ का जो फार्मर है उसका स्केल इतना छोटा है कि वो स्केल पे प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी तो छोड़ दो, बाकी सब जो चीज़ें उसको डे टू डे मैनेज करनी है वही मैनेज करना उसके लिए डिफिकल्ट है. बट द स्केल, फॉर एग्जांपल सह्याद्री इज हैंडलिंग 17% ऑफ टोटल ग्रेप एक्सपोर्ट्स फ्रॉम इंडिया राइट नाउ. At this scale, we are directly connected with the supermarkets in Europe. We are directly connected with the biggest buyers all around the world. और हमारा एक पोजीशन है कि हमारा मटेरियल आपको इस रेट पे लेना पड़ेगा. दिस इज आवर टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन. वी विल मीट योर क्वालिटी स्टैंडर्ड्स. वी विल मीट योर वट एवर स्टैंडर्ड्स आर देयर. And because of that standards, because of the scales we are having, because of the consistent supplies we are managing to these players, definitely there is opportunity for us to increase our profitability. Once the company is getting profitability, definitely it is being passed on to the farmers. Similarly, in case of tomatoes, Sahyadri right now around 1.5 lakh to 2 lakh metric ton tomatoes we are crushing over here in this campus. Total Maharashtra's production is around 20 lakh metric tons. So 10% of total Maharashtra's production is being crushed at Sahyadri in these premises. And when Sahyadri takes a call that we will buy the material at 4.5 rupees or 5 rupees kg, which will at any point of point will ensure cost of production assurance to the farmer, that whatever price in the market, whether is it 0.5 rupees or 1 rupees a kg, but farmer is going to get 5 rupees per kg for sure. So that's how the scale matters, because at 1.5 lakh ton, 2 lakh metric ton, we are directly connected with Unilevers, we are directly connected with the Parleys or Nestles. That kind of scale we have achieved, and this is actually benefiting for the company to manage the EBITDA as well as benefiting the farmers to gain more profitability.
Thanks, Tushar. So, again, taking one line from Tushar is, there is a statement कि farming में, agri में, and that's a bad word, herd mentality. वो कर रहा है, हम भी करेंगे. I think at times this herd mentality or collective thinking also helps, if I understand that correctly. Coming back to Sukrit, you've been an adopter of technology. I heard a lot of time from this forum कि आप technology right away adopt कर लेते हैं. आपने पिछले कुछ सालों में ऐसी क्या टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट की जो आपके लिए बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस क्रिएट किया है, और ऐसी क्या टेक्नोलॉजी जो अडॉप्ट की जो फेल हुई आपके लिए? अगर दोनों के बारे में यू विल स्पीक अबाउट समथिंग.
Sir, initially when we had our old farms, so we had let's say the technology which benefited. So initially we had our old farms which we uprooted now. So we had a irrigation system, let's say a fertigation system, which was not that competent to give the fertilizers. And also, I mean, we were not able to get that kind of production with the help of that system. So what we did is we shifted towards more modernized and automated irrigation system, fertigation systems, where we can give fertilizer in every drop, and the plants can take that fertilizer. And there is a precise way irrigation system. And also, the cost is also one concern in adopting the new technology. So, with this precise automation and irrigation system, fertigation, many problems have been solved. Let's say a farmer has to go in night to give irrigation to the field. But with help of this technology, I can operate from my mobile. I can put plan for, let's say, 14 days from now. And whenever the power comes, it gets on, and we have fertilizer tanks, and it's quite automated system. So that's the thing. And regarding limitations, let's say there is no limitation in any kind of technology which we have adopted. I can say there are many opportunities which you can find in agriculture. Let's say about AI. Because, sorry to mention, I have also working as a technical director in MRDBS, which is Maharashtra Grape Growers Association. So we are as an association also looking for a startup which can help us in getting AI. AI, in sense, what we are looking is that to build such an app which can analyze data and which can analyze the fertilizer data and also the farmer inputs and generate let's say a value, XYZ value, which can be given to the crops. AI in terms of hardware to scan the canopy, to get the count of number of fruits. And we are looking in such kind of technology. And I think this is a need right now for Indian farmers, Indian table grape industry, that we are one step now apart from other crops, because as with the help of Sahyadri, we are planting new varieties. And these varieties need specific management. And with the help of this AI, we can go in ease to generate data and all kind of stuff. So there is no limitation. There can be an opportunity in this. Yeah.
Sukrit, lovely to hear when a farmer talks about AI. I think we have arrived as a nation जब farmer talks about AI. Sukrit, thank you so much कि आप लोग ये बारे में सोच रहे हैं, क्योंकि एक जनरल परसेप्शन है मार्केट में कि कोई भी फार्मर नया टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट नहीं करना चाहता है. They are very resistive. Old ways are the ways which they operate. And startups and investors, since you're both there, you got to understand that there is a farmer who's sitting on the table here on this forum, is ready to adopt new technology, is talking about AI, is ready to accept it. How much it will be scalable, till what level, how can we reach various people on the ground is a different challenge to solve. But that's a challenge which you all have to solve. But at least a farmer is ready for here. Praveen, you've built tailor-made machines for India, okay? And it's not been easy. And I understand and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you own 80% market share of the machines which you've kind of built in a specific sector, if I understand that data correctly. Now, owning such a large market share, and the market is unlimited. I think it's still early days where we are, mechanization is still in very early days in India. In terms of innovation, in terms of building for Bharat, again coming back to the subject, building for Bharat, what did you do different? And अगर आप एक दो key learning share करना चाहेंगे forum के साथ, तो क्या share करना चाहेंगे?
Okay. So basically, again comes to the one story that is happening in last September 2024. Agrofab is bring one machine. It's called as Hurricane 400 and 600 liter. Basically, coming the story which I telling you that initially हमने एक market survey किया था कि भारत में, again I am telling about भारत में ऐसे कौन सा problem है जो pain point है. That was regarding the PGR application or the particular application. उसको application करने के लिए European company पे हमें depend रहना था. तो according to our research, last year, that was only 18 machine that has been imported from Italy in India. And the day we launched our machine, that is Hurricane 400 and 600 liter. तो लॉन्चिंग इवेंट में मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम क्या होता है कि आपको एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर पूछा जाता है कि ये कैसा काम करेगा, इसके रिजल्ट्स कैसे आएंगे, इसको कितना एचपी का ट्रैक्टर लगेगा, व्हाट्स एवर. तो ऐसा जो एंथुजियास्टिक, और बेसिकली वी आर वर्किंग इन द नासिक ग्रेप ग्रोवर्स आर द वन ऑफ द टफेस्ट ग्रेप ग्रोवर्स टू क्रैक. ये मैं आपको पहले तो बताऊंगा. अगर किसी को इधर लॉन्च करना है तो आपको आइडिया नहीं लॉन्च कर सकते, आपको एक बेसिकली एक पूर्ण फंडामेंटली करेक्ट थिंग इधर लॉन्च करनी पड़ती है, सबसे बड़ी बात. तो मैं आपको बताऊं, जिस दिन हमने वो लॉन्च किया था, तो लॉन्चिंग इवेंट में जिधर हमें क्वेश्चंस पूछने जाने थे, 3 मशीन हमने डिलीवरी ऑलरेडी प्लान किया था जिनका हमें मशीन का बुकिंग था. तो मशीन जब लॉन्च किया तो महाराष्ट्र द्राक्ष बागायतदार संघ के जो अध्यक्ष थे माननीय जी भोसले साहब, उन्होंने मुझे ये किया कि इन कंप्लीट 24 आवर्स, अगर हमने उधर मशीन का लॉन्चिंग प्राइस रखा था 3,99,000, जो कि 50% और 40% टुवर्ड्स द कंपेयरिंग द कॉस्ट ऑफ द यूरोपियन कंपनीज. तो उन्होंने बताया कि उसका प्राइस एक दिन के लिए तू एक काम कर 3,51,000 कर दे. तो उनको, मुझे पता था लास्ट ईयर का डेटा, मैंने एकदम ये करके गया था. तो मैंने क्या किया, ओके एक दिन के लिए हम उसको कर देंगे. तो you might be surprised, in one complete day, there was total booking of 147 machines of 3,51,000 rupees. और उस दिन भारत के 7 करोड़ 60 लाख रुपए भारत में रह गए, और वो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी के मैं बता रहा हूँ. और जो अगर वो पूरा इंपोर्ट करते थे तो वो उसका ट्वाइस और थ्राइस अमाउंट था. तो ये चीज़ होती है एक एंटरप्रेन्योर की, आपको उसको एनकाउंटर करना पड़ेगा, व्हाट एग्जैक्टली प्रॉब्लम दे आर फेसिंग एंड व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू सॉल्व, व्हाट इम्पैक्ट इट विल ब्रिंग टू द जर्नी ऑफ द फार्मर. सेकंड, एक मिजरेबल चीज़ है जो डिजास्टर था, हमने उसको किया, कैटर करने का कोशिश किया, लेकिन वो बैडली फेल हुआ, वो भी मैं बताना इधर पसंद करूँगा. बेसिकली ग्रेप्स में एक हाइड्रोजन साइनामाइड एप्लीकेशन करना पड़ता है. तो हाइड्रोजन साइनामाइड्स एप्लीकेशन करने में इधर जो फार्मर्स इधर बैठे हैं, तो स्वैबिंग यानी हाथ से वो पूरा एप्लीकेशन एक लेबर इंटेंसिव जॉब होता है, जिसमें प्रिसीजन होना बहुत जरूरी है, अदरवाइज स्प्राउटिंग के इशू आते हैं. सुकृत माइट बी टोलिंग इट वेरी नाइसर वे. तो ये प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट मुझे मिला कि प्रवीण ये हमारा प्रॉब्लम है, इसको सॉल्व करना है भैया, क्या कर सकते हैं. तो व्हाट आई डन, आई डिड अ मशीन, और उसमें हम हाइड्रोजन साइनामाइड को शॉवर की तरह स्प्रे करते थे. और जो नॉर्मली हैंड स्प्रे से करते थे उसमें क्या होता था कि अदर क्रॉप उस पर अफेक्ट होते थे, बिकॉज हाइड्रोजन साइनामाइड जब इधर उधर जाता है उसको अदर जो क्रॉप का जो स्टेज है उसमें कुछ रॉन्ग इम्पैक्ट आते थे. तो वो बोलते शॉवर से होना चाहिए. तो हमने वो शॉवर से अच्छे से किया वो, और दिनेश रकीबे जी है इधर, शायद उनके पास ट्रायल भी हुआ था. तो जो प्रॉब्लम था कि हमारा लेबर इशू है, और इसमें वो 1 एकड़ में अगर 5-6 लीटर हाइड्रोजन साइनामाइड यूज़ करते थे, तो मेरे मशीन से वो 18 लीटर पर एकड़ लग गया. तो वो मिजरेबली फेल हो गया, बिकॉज मैं उधर प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहा था, लेकिन जो कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग जो होती है वो इतनी बढ़ गई कि वो अडॉप्ट नहीं हुआ. तो कोई चीज़ अगर आप सॉल्व करते हो तो दूसरा प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट नहीं करना चाहिए. एक फाउंडर को एक मेरा सजेशन रहेगा, तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम अगेन आप उसको फोर्स नहीं कर सकते, आप उसको दे सकते हो, लेकिन एडॉप्टेबिलिटी अगेन इन द हैंड ऑफ द एंड यूज़र. तो ये सबसे बड़ी इशू होता है. तो वो प्रॉब्लम अभी भी अनसॉल्व है, उसको सॉल्व करने में वी आर स्टिल डूइंग समथिंग, कि उसको कैसे रिसर्कुलेट किया जाए और उसको कैसे हम कम से कम हाइड्रोजन साइनामाइड स्प्रे एप्लीकेशन में कैसे दे पाए. तो दिस इज़ व्हाट आवर स्टोरी इज़, कि ऐसा होता है और रियल टाइम में कुछ चीज़ें हमें ऐसे सॉल्व करनी पड़ती है.
अनबिलीवेबल प्रवीण. मतलब अगर आप एक दिन में, बोलते हैं इंडिया में मार्केट नहीं है, साइज नहीं है, आप एक दिन में एक 10% प्राइस कम करके अगर 150 मशीन बेच सकते हैं, दैट इज कुडोस टू एक्चुअली दैट देयर इज substantially large opportunity in the ecosystem, and people are ready to pay in this ecosystem. The general perception is people are not ready to pay in the ecosystem, but that myth gets broke today for us. Ritu, coming to you again, saying farming is long term. We believe that you have to sow seeds, you have to wait for 2 or 3 years. It's not like hunting. It's actually long term. What do you as investors would believe that, how do you plant these seeds to have long-term sustainable startups? What methods do you kind of deploy to, do you work with incubators? How do you kind of look at this as a format?
So are you asking about the sustainability of the company?
Not sustainability. I'm saying
of
sustainability of identifying sustainable, investable startups.
So I don't think there's any substitute. So look, we are investing for the long term. It's not कि 6 महीना का investment करना है, इसमें पैसे बनेगा कि नहीं. वो 5, 6, 7 साल हमारी जर्नी है एक स्टार्टअप के साथ. तो वो 5, 6 साल में not only does the startup have to survive, it has to grow, it has to make money, right? So the scalability will only come that way if you actually have a fundamentally sustainable business. So while farming is a long term, typically people come back to different crops. So you're learning about growing your company more frequently than once every 2-3 years, right? So there is no substitute to going down. So India mein, one of the challenges of scalability is that as soon as you go 100 kilometers, you know that market dynamics are different. So the crops are different, that market dynamics, but even in the same crop, the market dynamic changes. So, I mean, we were talking about this earlier with Kairas. You know, we have a company that works in pomegranate, which moves from Rajasthan down to Karnataka. But the market in Karnataka, with how the market behaves in Gujarat or Rajasthan or Maharashtra, is all very different. So there is no substitute for you learning how that market operates if you want to build a sustainable long-term company. So you can't say ki, I will not understand this part of the market, I will not understand that part of the market, because the market is an addition of all these markets. And that's somewhere that is some of the challenges of scaling, because you have to understand the nuances of each of this if you have to build a company for the long-term sustainability.
Excellent, Ritu. Thank you so much. So what we'll do is slightly change the format considering what time we have. Now, I've got 3 rapid questions for all of you. And I'm going to ask each one of you this question. And I'm going to start with you, Ritu. Now, assuming you had 100 crores today, okay? And you had to invest in the next decade. I know you would love to invest in Sahyadri Farms. We all would love to do that. But keeping that aside, if in one agri-tech idea or ecosystem, and this question is for all of you, which agri-tech idea, ecosystem, or a tech which you would invest? And it's a rapid fire. So whatever first comes to your mind.
It's a very difficult question, but lots of things, right? So I think there are lots of value chains where technology hasn't come in to actually scale and grow them. Whether you want to put AI in it or not, I'm irrelevant to that, but it's just about rationalizing supply chains. I think the financing part, we spoke about how there's a lack of data, but because of the first waves of digitization, etc., data has started flowing.
One which would be your biggest one?
These will all be big ones. I can't choose. There are too many of them,
all right?
Lots of interesting startups.
We'll move on to Praveen. Praveen, अगर आपके पास 100 करोड़ रुपया होता, आप अगर ecosystem में invest करते तो कहाँ पे करते थे? Okay. And आप एक entrepreneur है, तो I want to hear from the entrepreneur.
Yes, actually, basically, I would like to invest that totally 100 crore rupees in the spraying unit only. You know, कि आपका जो industry अगर देखेंगे, जो agriculture chemical industry है वो इतना बड़ा है, लेकिन जो उसका मिडल मैन है, जो स्प्रे यानी केमिकल को टारगेट तक लेने जाने वाला जो मीडिएटर है, अगर आप इन फार्मर्स का देखेंगे तो वो सस्टेनेबल नहीं है. तो उसकी कॉस्ट कट करके, अगर वो और कॉस्ट कट डाउन करके वो अगर मैं ईच एंड एवरी फार्मर्स को दे दूँ, तो नेक्स्ट ईयर आई एम नॉट सरप्राइज कि आप सबका क्वालिटी में 20% के नियर बाय उसमें इंप्रूवमेंट हो सकता है. तो आई वुड लाइक टू इन्वेस्ट होल मनी इन रिप्लेसिंग ऑल द स्प्रेयर मशीन विच आर नॉट गुड इनफ टू गेट अ गुड कवरेज.
ब्रिलियंट प्रवीण. सुकृत, सेम क्वेश्चन आपके लिए.
Sir, I would like to invest that 100 crores in. I will buy land, and I will take this to the another level, because yes, we have those potential, but we lack capital. There's the thing as a farmer. Somewhere around we have some limitations, but we'll like to invest in farms and make it at a very big level.
Brilliant, Sukrit. So capital is still a constraint. All the investors who are listening to this, you got to remember that capital is still a constraint. सुरेश जी, आपके लिए क्वेश्चन बोलता हूँ. अगर 100 करोड़ रुपया आज रहेगा, आप कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहेंगे? एक नए स्टार्टअप के, या आप फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहेंगे? आपने बोला कैपिटल की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है.
हम जो कमोडिटी हमारी 2-3 महीने के बाद डैमेज हो जाती है, इसलिए कोल्ड स्टोरेज खड़ा करना, जो कि कम दाम जब मार्केट में माल बिकता है तब वो कोल्ड स्टोरेज में किसान लोगों का भी माल होल्ड हो जाएगा और ऊंचे दाम आने के बाद वो माल सेल हो जाएगा. इसलिए लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए कोल्ड स्टोरेज की ज़रूरत है, और कोल्ड स्टोरेज में रखने के लिए भी किसान लोगों की फंडिंग करना पड़ती, उसमें भी यूज़ करेंगे.
Thank you, Suresh ji. So, if you realize that we believe that there is enough cold storage in the country, a classical example, there is still a gap and an opportunity here. Tushar, I know 100 crores is too less for Sahyadri Farms. So, I'll kind of replace the question, maybe 1,000 crores. If given 1,000 crores, what would you do next?
I think market linkage and supply chain. Because until and unless market is connected, we cannot really solve the problem at the ground level. That is very important problem. And even 1,000 crores are less for that.
Thank you. So market linkages and supply chain. Tushar loves supply chain. I believe that. And I think still there is a substantially large gap in supply chain. So if startups or investors, both of you looking at it, these are two places which you want to kind of look at. Again, for you, 100 crores is absolutely going to be nothing for an NBFC.
So I'll put something on climate because the risk and opportunity both is huge for the farming community, followed by supply chain and value-added services. Because I think we are selling too many things raw. If we can create something where we can add value and are able to sell it, so anybody who works on something where there is a value addition, I would want to put my money on that.
So Purvi, last question, considering what time we have, and we'll start with that side now. What is one biggest myth, Brahm, would you want to break today for all of us in the agri-tech industry, or after your visit to Sahyadri Farms has broken for you?
I think I will go last in this.
Yeah. Whoever wanted to, Tushar, you want to
Because
start?
I'm here to visit.
What would you like to break for all of us here?
I think guarantee, because many of the startups coming up with some kind of idea, and most of the times many of the startups, they start talking like we guarantee that this kind of disease can disappear if we use our some kind of solution or maybe technology. So I think guaranteeing something, especially in case of agriculture, is the biggest myth that is not possible. Of course, with due course of understanding, study, on-ground rollouts, definitely this can be done out, but guarantees need to really come out of.
So you have to go to predictability rather than guarantee.
Yeah.
सुरेश जी, एक भ्रम जो सबके लिए तोड़ना चाहते हैं आप यहाँ पे, एक भ्रम कि ऐसा सब सोचते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है। एग्रीकल्चर में आप एक मैसेज पास करना चाहते हैं सबके लिए। अगर आपको एक कोई सोच आती है कि नहीं आप ऐसा मत सोचिए, एग्रीकल्चर में जैसे एक भ्रम में एग्रीकल्चर में पैसा नहीं है, ओके। एंड मैं देखता हूँ कि मैं कोई एग्रीकल्चर को देखता हूँ कि जो सबसे ज़्यादा महंगी गाड़ियाँ खरीदते हैं, इज़ अ क्लासिकल एग्जाम्पल। तो आप एक ऐसा क्या भ्रम तोड़ना चाहेंगे सबके लिए?
किसान लोगों ने खुद के लिए कमाया तो गाड़ी वाला क्या खाएगा?
Thank you, Suresh ji. For you.
Sir, we can say technology can be a myth, that everything will not be depend on technology, because on the ground you have to see what are the real things. So only depending on technology will not work in this, let's say in table grape industry, because there are many things involved in that.
For you, Praveen.
आज एक मिथ अगर हमें इधर से छोड़ के जाना है तो वो हमें नहीं छोड़ना है, वो इन्वेस्टर्स के बाजू से मैं आपको बोलना चाहूँगा। आप एक मिथ इधर से छोड़ के जाइए कि एग्रीकल्चर बिजनेस आर नॉट इन्वेस्टेबल। ये मैं इधर से एक मिथ इधर छोड़ के जाना चाहूँगा कि इट इज़ अ रियली इन्वेस्टेबल बिजनेस एंड यू शुड इन्वेस्ट इन एग्रीकल्चर बिजनेस।
Thank you, Praveen. I think the myth of adopting technology, the myth of investable business. Ritu.
I'm going to add to that you can make money investing in it. So
if you're an LP, if you're a GP, you could certainly look at the agri sector as an investment. Coming back to you.
Okay, so since I would agree with him, the myth that is technology है तो मतलब सब solve हो गया. Technology is more of a facilitator and not a complete, मतलब उसको छोड़ दिया कि बस टेक्नोलॉजी के भरोसे ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. सो दैट्स अ मिथ दैट विल हैव टू कीप असाइड कि ये टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट कर लिया तो सारे प्रॉब्लम वहीं पे सॉल्व हो गए. नॉट ओनली इन एग्रीकल्चर, एवरीवेयर.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think the time is up, and I'll kind of say for me as an individual also, the biggest myth which is kind of broken before I coming to this format is also, it's certainly an investable opportunity, but this is extremely long-term capital. फार्मिंग ऐसे बोला जाता है, हम लोग हमेशा बोलते हैं फार्मिंग आप एक आम का झाड़ लगाओ, 3 साल तक आपको फल नहीं देगा, उसके बाद जिंदगी भर आपको फल देते रहेगा. इफ यू टेक गुड केयर ऑफ दैट मैंगो ट्री, एंड दैट्स व्हाट ऑल फार्मिंग इज ऑल अबाउट. Farmers are ready to be investable. Farmers are, the agri ecosystem is ripe for unlocking, and there is not a better time to invest, and invest in this country, invest in Bharat. Once again, thank you for the panelists, and thank you everyone for making this today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So nice.
Thank you. Dhanyawad. Thank you.
Panelists, can you stay back for a quick picture, please? Thank you, Ashwin sir, for wonderfully moderating this panel. Amazing insights, especially a lot of myths broken. But I still see our audience. Okay, there was some energy when I heard someone saying, okay, agri is an a sector where you definitely can invest and make money. How many of you agree? I guess you all should. Hands should go up very quickly for this question. It's undoubted. Okay, we'll bring back the energy. What do we do? You give me some ideas, I'm running out of them. Tea? Yes. My volunteers, the message is passed. Okay. What next? Tea will take some time if you want a good one. But what do we do? No, clapping is not helping. Something has to change. I've tried all my tricks that generally work, but today I don't know. Something is not working. Okay, maybe we'll switch our energies a little. How many of you believe in energy? Vibes? We all? Right? You all are sitting on the same seats since morning and you have created that energy. Let's maybe change our energies a little. Yes? Quickly, within 10 seconds, change your places and you will sit at a table you don't know anyone from that table. 1. Let's be quick, we don't have time. 2. Everyone. 3. 4. We have the videos on, we'll check if everyone has changed the place. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. And 10. That's great, lovely audience. Can we do a quick quiz? What quiz do you want? A GK on agri or a little funny quiz? Funny riddles? Cool. I'll go with what my audience is asking for. But there's no prize, huh? You have to volunteer, but I don't have any prize for all of you. Okay, I am the farmer's alarm clock. I crow at dawn, not at noon. I don't sell eggs, yet I wake up soon. Who am I? Do you want me to repeat? Yeah, exactly. Can we have his name and please clap for him? Yeah. Sridhar from KPMG. Okay, he said the correct answer. I hope the audience heard it. Loud. It's a rooster. Yes, can we clap for him? Great. I sleep underground in a blanket snug. I pop up in salads when you give me a hug. What am I? This is, I guess, most of us love it. Everyone's favorite, especially kids. I'll repeat. I sleep underground in a blanket snug. I pop up in salads when you give me a hug. What am I? Someone said it. Yay! Can we clap? Potato. Okay. Farmers plant me in a row with care. I drink the rain and grow in air. I am not a singer, but I have a stalk. When you grind me, your bread will talk. What am I? Yes, yes, someone said it. Yes, yes, Pallavi, right. Wheat. Great. I wear a cap, I wear a cloak. I sleep in dirt and never joke. When you pick me, I cry a tear. I make your food taste less austere. What am I? Who said? I guess most of you could guess it. Okay, I am small and round and jump in a pod. I am green and proud and like a Scot. Soups and curries love me cheer. What little legume am I here? Peas, correct. Can we clap? Oh, you all know a lot of answers. Good. But I don't have prizes. I have few more which we'll take up when we again want the energy back in the room. Okay? How many of you are excited for the match in the evening? Only if I get assurance that for next couple of hours, we'll have the same energy in the room. I guess it is only 3 hours from now. Okay, if we keep up the energy, we'll ensure that we have a match screened live in the evening with dinner. Does that make you happy? Great. So with this promise, we'll quickly move to the next panel for the day. But before that, again, someone very special and dear to us who was supposed to be part of this event, Honorable Shri Dr. Ramaswamy, who is Secretary Animal Husbandry, Dairy Development and Fisheries, Government of Maharashtra. He was supposed to be here, but he couldn't join. But we have a quick video message from him.
So far, we were treated differently in terms of facilities for credit, even the electricity bill and other things. So we have huge potential, especially in poultry. Similarly, in dairy also, we have huge potential. With the latest policy, enabling policy, plus integration of all the technology, there is a huge scope for growth of these sectors in Maharashtra. And definitely with the development of economy, the consumption of milk, meat and other fish products will go up in any country. So this Bharat Agri-Innovation Manthan is a great platform to explore the possibilities of growth in Maharashtra. I request all the investors, startups and farmers alike to use this platform for the development of these agri and allied sectors in Maharashtra.
While he's not here, can we still put our hands up for him? Okay, he has set the tone for the next panel, which would talk about opportunities in agri and allied value chains, which also focuses on learning from the ground, shaping policies and building for scale. May I now request Mr. Sri Krishna Gangurde, Dada, to be on the stage. Mr. Rohan Ursal, who is MD Purandar Highlands FPC. Mr. Kairas Vakharia. Mr. Ruchir Parekh, Manager Markets IDH. Mr. Rohan Dani, Senior Associate Black Soil. Mr. Gaurav Somvanshi, Founder Emertex Innovations. And this panel is going to be moderated and led by Ms. Ritu Verma. Can we have a huge round of applause for the team? Yeah, you may have to shift.
Can you hear me? Yes. So I'm glad somebody else got the energy up, but I'm also going to hope that this panel gets the energy up. So, the focus of the day and I think the setting of these conversations lends to the fact कि हम लोग ज़मीन के बारे में बात करें and what we have learned. So we are going to start from what everybody has learned here, and I'm here to learn from all of you as to what you have learned. And I think the crux of how I'd like you to sort of address the question is that, in your journey, what have you learned that has driven scale? And whether we have people here who've been on ground and entrepreneurs on ground. We also have policy and financiers here, so, at a slightly higher level. But everybody is driving to being able to scale solutions in the market, to scale solutions that can solve problems in agriculture, but also allied sectors that can come in to supplement and as the market increases, as we sort of heard. So can we look at it from that lens? So if you start with a brief one line on what you do, but let's talk about how you think that what you've learned doing what you do, how will that serve us for the next 5 years here of growing scale? And I'm looking at you, Kairas, so can we start from you, right? Because I think you have a lens of, mechanization, crops growing, all of that. What's the learnings from the past 5 years that you see?
Yeah, so thanks, Ritu. I'm Kairos Vakaria from Mahindra & Mahindra. So I think you need to have a very, very good customer insight. You really need to know what the customer needs and whether it's a product or a service. If you are really very close to the customer, you understand the pain points of the customer, and you design your product and service around the customer, then given the fact that there are lots and lots of farmers in India, you should be able to scale. So that, if there's only one thing, I would say, there are many others, but you need to get that fundamental customer insight correct.
And I'll stay with you for a minute. Can you give us an example of something that has happened in the past years where that customer insight was so sharp or missing, which enabled scale or killed scale?
Yeah, so if you look at, for instance, harvesting solutions in cereals now, in southern India and eastern India, you now have wetlands, because you grow 2 and 3 crops of rice, and typically this harvesting was not very mechanized, but now you have harvesters with crawlers that have come in over the last. They've scaled up over the last 5 years. They've been around for a long time, but these machines now have become much lighter, have become much faster and much cheaper. And so all of a sudden you're seeing that this crawler harvester industry is growing by 30, 40, 50%.
Okay,
the last
so the conditions were such that it needed a technological change, and once that happened, it met the needs to scale. Excellent. I'll come back. You're in fruits here. So, and a long family business of being in fruits here. आपकी फैमिली की जर्नी से और आपके पिछले 5 साल की जर्नी से, कैन यू टेल अस इफ यू सी सम चेंज इन levers to scale that you think can help for the next 5 years? जब पहले शुरू हुई थी तो ज़रूर कुछ था, लेकिन पिछले 5 साल में क्या चेंज किया है और उससे हम लोग क्या सीख सकते हैं आगे 5 साल के लिए?
Certainly, सर्वप्रथम नमस्कार सर्वांना. So, just a brief journey about what Purandar Highlands is. So, Purandar Highlands started as a proprietary company 10 years back, when the whole and soul vision of this company that we should be exporting the fresh figs, which is grown in Purandar region. So, Purandar has a GI tag for figs, and we wanted to export them. But when we finally entered into, when I started communicating with the farmers in my village and around there, we realized that there is actually no work done on pre-harvest, post-harvest and packaging practices. It was not existing. And that was the time we realized that this is not just mere exports that would happen. It is about creating the entire value chain and making it sure that we tap all the pain points what our farmers had. And I think exactly 5 years back, this proprietary company converted into a farmer-producer company. When we saw that the vision has grown, it is not just Purandar smallholder farmers, but in a majority of the Indian smallholder farmers face the exact issue that what we saw, that farmers grow amazing, but only thing we lack right now is that we are not better entrepreneurs and not better sellers or not better marketers of that produce what we grow. And I think that is what Purandar Highlands started working. We wanted to become good entrepreneurs along with growing good fruits, become entrepreneurs, create a brand that would be sustainable, and then scaling it up at the right time.
So, if I understand you correctly, आपने 2 चीज़ बोला. One that a farmer is a farmer, but to think about it more as a business, as an entrepreneur, was something that was possible, and that was possible when you came together. So, in the next 5 years, if you had to take the FPC right now that you have and say you needed a 10-fold growth in that FPC, what will you have to do?
So what we've done in last 5 years is that FPC, obviously Purandar Highlands is a bootstrap FPC till date. What we've done is we've become, in our last 10 years experience, we have become the only company in India who is exporting the fresh figs now. We are the first manufacturers of fig juice, which is now been also exported from India. So again, we have got a provisional patent for that product. And then we have started working on the other products which are indigenous to India. So like the Ratnadeep guava, the Purandar custard apple, the lychee, strawberry. So what we've done is that in last 5 years or in last 10 years of our journey, we have known our product pretty well. We have now known what the exact value of these products, even in fresh and in the processed form, can be. And now, at this point today, we are now actually looking up at scaling our products because we have already created our brand. We have already started exporting now. Now, the only left behind is that how we scale this multiple times in the coming years. And I think that is what our FPC has already started doing now.
So, is it about scaling and getting more farmers to join you, or is it about just taking what you have and finding the markets? And if it is the first one, again, any learnings? There are farmers here also of sort of, growing that farmer base here.
So scaling for a FPC is, again, both the points have to be applied. I mean, if we are scaling, it is scaling only if we are able to serve more farmers in our taluka. That is first priority. And if we are serving them, if we are serving more farmers, obviously our brand, our sales have to increase multiple times. So right now, as I said, scaling is creating that right infrastructure, then building that brand multiple times, and then tapping those hidden markets which have not been tapped yet. And I think that is how scaling looks. I mean, you need more farmers, but at the same time, parallelly, you need to find more markets, only then it is sustainable.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to wait on you for a reason, and I'm going to come back, because you look are sort of different in a supply chain, value chain to some extent here. I want to talk about chickens.
Yes.
So, same question to you, sir, that इतने साल से जो आप कर रहे हैं, आपने इतना बड़ा कंपनी बनाए, बहुत सारे इनोवेशंस किए, आपको अगर एक चीज़ पिक करना था या एक या दो चीज़ पिक करना था that allowed you to reach this scale, what would it be? What helped you become the company you are today? ये scale कैसे आई?
Reaching to the customer and make protein affordable to the bottom of the pyramid.
हाँ.
Or integrating to the backward and forward linkages, like we are directly buying maize from farmers, soya from farmer, processing the soya, maize, making a food, have own logistic. Then we are doing contract farming with more than 2,200 farmers in Maharashtra and Gujarat. As we have our own breed, which is, when I started the poultry, at that time it was 650 gram per capita consumption, and population of country was 100 crore. Now it is 146 crore, and per capita consumption is 5.5 kg. But it is very less. Sri Lanka is having a 22 kg per capita, and we are having a 5. There is long way to go. So just make a protein affordable and to the masses.
But you make it sound very easy.
Huh?
You make it sound very easy.
No.
इसमें क्या problems थे और कैसे आपने उसको?
Every event I have responded to the very nice way. Bird flu, my company's turnover was before bird flu 6 crore, and then after on the same year we expanded. When ball touches to the bottom, there is no option but to bounce it, and when it will bounce back, you have to be there. Then it was 24 crore in 1 year time. After that, last year we did 654 CR. Now we developed our own breed, genetic. That is worldwide. There were 13 companies when I started. Now only 2 companies, and both are American companies. We have to see the weakness of the other companies also, our competitor. They develop their breed in a controlled climatic condition in US and Europe. One is Aviagen, his ownership is with the Tyson Food US. Another is Cobb Ventras is the ownership with the Tyson, and another is Aviagen. It is EW Group, Netherlands. And they develop their genetic program in the controlled climatic condition. We develop our breed on open housing condition, where our breed is performing better in a tropical condition, especially in India, Africa. Now our customers are in Nigeria, in Senegal, in West Africa, other countries, then Malawi, and Kenya also we are starting our own. So in Africa, I think we are Indian company, being the 3rd pure line company in the world, we are most preferred in open climatic condition in African conditions.
So the feed and the localization of the feed is the critical...
No, breed, not feed.
Sorry,
breed.
I meant it's a
the
breed
variety.
Breed is
that is suited more in the open housing condition that can adapt to the high temperature as well as temperature variation and disease resistance.
And next 5 years, you think this will continue to grow, or will you have to do some more innovation?
We have to reach worldwide. We have to reach worldwide.
Yeah.
Where today, our cost of production of hatching egg is 20 cents. And in Senegal, it is getting sold at 54 cents. And today, $1.3 means per chick is the cost in Congo. Most of the poor country having highest price for the chicken. And chicken is coming in Senegal from Brazil. In the Brazil, there was a bird flu outbreak. The geopolitical situation also we have to see. When there is a bird flu outbreak, total supply chain disrupted. And so we went there and we proved that our breed is performing better than them. So cost, we have to capitalize on our strength of human manpower. Now the human capital is the most important. Especially we are doing artificial insemination to the female, the birds. And we get 85 to 87% hatchability, means chick getting out of eggs. Where these Europeans and Brazil, worldwide, chickens are reared, breeder chickens are reared on the floor. So there is a natural mating. So their hatchability is 77%. Our hatchability is 85%. So 7% higher, then our chick quality is better. Our people are there to clean the eggs. So we have to capitalize on the human resources and make the market for the worldwide.
Excellent.
That others can do. That European or US companies can't do. They can't clean the eggs. They can't do the artificial insemination. So we have to capitalize on our core strength. That is our human capital.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to come back to technology. And you have a very interesting solution. And, can you walk us through it and sort of working with Sahyadri with that, the blockchain here? Yes. Sort of what has helped you? I think you told me 5.2 million QR codes here, right? So what has helped it get that big? What was the secret sauce?
Yes.
A lot of technologies struggle quite a bit.
So thank you. For us, the secret sauce was learnings at Sahyadri itself. So if you look at our panel discussion, I'll just give that example. Learning from the ground. So the birth of our startup, our first agricultural project, the first blockchain QR codes that we did, happened all in this campus at Sahyadri. This is where we learned that the fundamental difference is if you have some long-term goals, let's say traceability is a long-term goal, but if it doesn't have any daily utility for the shop floor worker, then it's not going to be used. I'll give you an example of how Sahyadri even beat IBM and Walmart. So IBM and Walmart came together to build a solution called Food Trust. Hundreds of millions of dollars went in to have blockchain-backed QR codes, but they were able to print, the last time I checked, only 7,000 QR codes, so monumental failure. Wow. So the global partner of IBM, Anthony Day, interviewed and they asked, what is it that went right at Sahyadri? So the only thing that went right at Sahyadri was the digitalization that was happening throughout the supply chain was already there. So they were using multitude of solutions to ensure that the product segregation is in place, even though they had no need to do that, but Vilas sir's vision was for the future. So having that futuristic vision is what enabled to have 5.2 million QR codes. Now compare Walmart and IBM versus a small startup like us working with Sahyadri. So that's second. And the second is shaping policy. So taking those learnings of traceability. Now traceability is a part of European compliances, like European Union deforestation regulation. And for example, the same product that Sahyadri is using, the tires on the road that you see today, Apollo, Seat, BKT, all of them are our clients today. And to over 1.5 crore tires have the same kind of QR code that went on Sahyadri products. It's just that now the policy is also helping it. Because without those QR codes, you can't export them to Europe. And the third, of course, is building for scale. That's the story that Vilas sir's entire vision has been about. So even when we are doing software architecture, even if we are working for, let's say, 10 users, but the scale has to be kept in mind for, let's say, 1,000 users in mind. So these fundamental principles which apply to software, apply to farming, agriculture, all domains, and all the basics we had learned and ingrained at Sahyadri itself.
And how would you tell a tech startup entrepreneur who is not sitting at Sahyadri, though everyone's sitting here at Sahyadri, what should they do to get that fundamental scale in?
So the first thing is there is always a tug of war between whether I should build for an investor or whether I should do to solve a problem. The investor-friendly words are plug and play, immediately scalable, no customization. These are investor-friendly words. But the reality is you need to have customizations. You need to build services. Products won't just come out of thin air. So building services that solve the problems on a daily scale, which gives you traction, is the way to go towards building a product. So you can't just build a product sitting in AC rooms and just coming one day and asking people to use it. Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of perceptions of people sitting in AC rooms and conference centers here, it seems, but not with their customers. Thank you, Gautam. Ruchir, I'm going to come to you. And again, I think you have a broad lens. So if you are to walk us through sort of the learnings here for scalability.
So a bit of a context on who IDH is, what IDH is. So my name is Ruchir, and I am a manager markets working with IDH. And IDH is a Dutch-based non-profit. And our core strength lies in the fact that we have amassed knowledge on sustainable value chains across the world, working across like 50-odd commodities, including coffee, vanilla, fruits, dairy, livestock, and so many other commodities. And in India, we work with state governments, FPOs, private sector, civil society organizations, experts, agri-tech players. So the goal here is, or what we are trying to achieve here is to bring more and more people on the same platform around the theme of sustainability, so that there can be more dialogue and all the solutions that come out are collaborative and they are multifaceted in their approach of design. So when it comes to, startups, I would not be speaking on product design or, how to implement or how to basically seek venture funding or whatnot. I would rather speak about the ecosystem in which I personally see even startups doing very well. And that approach would be, so again, I'll speak from, or I'll draw from a certain approach that we have within our organization. It's called a landscape approach. So you imagine a farm. A farm is not an entity which is isolated from its surroundings. A farm is nested in a landscape, in an entire ecosystem where there is biodiversity, where there are, watersheds, again, social capital, and so many other things. So there is an interplay between all of these things. And similarly, if you zoom out a little bit, there is an entire landscape of actors where there is government, where there are NGOs working very closely with the farmers. And then there is so much of capital, let's say government money that is being channeled through several schemes, let's say NREGA and several other schemes, SRLMs and so many of these initiatives of the government. There are agri-tech players, of course, all of you are present here. And then there are people like us who are more like neutral party trying to bring everybody on the same platform to have meaningful dialogue on what solutions to create. So we have such program. I spoke of landscape. So in this approach, we basically, I'll give you an example. We've worked very closely with Madhya Pradesh government in basically cotton growing 8 to 9 districts. We've brought those districts together administratively into one compact, and we have an MOU with state government there. We're working with several startups there as well. We worked with Haq Darshak, who are trying to solve social problems, basically providing community members, farmer community members, access to social entitlements. Similarly, on agriculture and farm productivity side of things, we are partnering with Vadwani AI and several other, Kelkar brothers, if some few of you may have heard of them. So they specialize in developing packages of practice for several crops. So there are so many of these players that work in that ecosystem. We have meetings with them, bring all of them on one single forum. So we realize that there is so much duplication of work that can simply be avoided. And when you, let's say, bring in somebody like state government in a dialogue like that, which also concerns, of course, startups and bringing innovation, you would realize that government has so many resources, and if you can channelize some of those things, you unlock or free up so much money which can be invested productively in some of these innovations. And there is a lot of cross-learning as well. So it's a complex subject.
But Ruchir, we all want to know, how do we unlock all this extra money sitting there for all of us? So what's the secret sauce?
There is no secret sauce. Like you said, you put in a lot of work, you engage in a lot of dialogue, and what we have done as an example is a lot of money that goes in Narega scheme. So we have tried to channelize that money into basically watershed management and other landscape related initiatives which indirectly can unlock productivity at a farmer level. And
so if I asked you the question a little differently, what would you wish for in the next 5 years? You've seen this really complex landscape, overlaps, hard to get the different actors working together, I assume. Is there an ask that would help everybody in this room get much better access to these various players? Is there something at a policy level? Is there something that, what would your ask be here?
Yeah, so very happy to say that what the ask is, like we have a live example right in front of us. We had an address from Chief Minister Maharashtra. So this is the first of its kind initiative which actually acknowledges that there is so much technology out there and we can implement all of that into agriculture and solve so many of the problems if we can, tap into all of this inventory of solutions, robotics and data, AI, traceability, all of these things. So again, when somebody like state governments who actually have a strong foothold or a control over rural communities. So if they acknowledge that there is a need to step in this direction, which is a technology-led direction, I think these dialogues will become more frequent and more productive.
So just from the top, having that vision, having the will to sort of pull people in together and make it happen sounds like would be helpful. Great. Last but not the least, right? So I wanted to come to you last because more from the capital side. Just maybe if you could walk us through, you sit in various different businesses. You've seen some good lending happen across various businesses and scale happen for your business as well. A little bit of a flavor of what has worked. We talked earlier about the lack of financing, but you guys have obviously cracked that code. Tell us a bit more about it.
So hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Rohan Dani from Black Soil. So we are basically an NBFC cum AIF. We basically provide private credit to the Indian startups, focusing a lot on the climate and agri space now. So coming to your question, so over time what we have seen is the kind of companies that are coming for funding have changed. So earlier there were mainly just B2B trading platforms that were coming, no real value add, just sort of providing credit in the system and sort of making buyer and seller meet. But now over time, what we are seeing is we are actually seeing a lot of companies that are actually adding value to whatever they are doing. Be it on the input side, they are starting their own brands. They are not just depending on the likes of, say, the Bayers and Syngentas of the world. They are coming up with their own formulations. They are actually working with farmers at a grassroots level to understand what they require, to get that feedback and to develop products that actually work for them and help them. So over time, we've seen this entire shift happen. Now from the input side, we are also seeing companies move into the more value accretive margins increasing, the processing and the cold storage side as well. So over time, we can see there is a lot of value being added over time by all these companies that are in the ecosystem. And considering debt that we provide is not very long term, it is typically for 2 to 3 years, we need to see that clear path to profitability, those unit economics very early on. We unfortunately do not have the time for those companies to reach that scale if they are working on lower margins. So we are emphasizing on focusing on companies that are finding the product market fit very easily, very quickly, and sort of achieving that scale also side by side.
So does that mean that there's a focus on certain parts of the supply chain and not others?
Certain parts, I would say, which are value accretive, which helps in, say, so I'll just give you a quick fact. Basically, from farm to fork, almost 20 to 30% of the food gets lost because of wastage. So now there are companies doing processing, there are companies doing cold storage and actually helping the supply chain. This wastage actually gets converted to margins. So for me as a lender, for me as a financier, that is directly driving into the company, and that is ensuring that I get good returns from these investments that I make.
Got it. But I think the question I have for you to follow up on that, if we could stay there, is you know, the agri value chains need a lot of financing. Farmers need financing. And, you know, intrinsically, a lot of businesses are slim margin businesses. In the coming years, do you see some innovations in the financial sector? Because it's about bringing down the cost to be able to service that, to, you know, enable that piece. Is there something that you guys see at Black Soil that can, you know, unlock the capital? It's a huge industry.
Right. So actually,
or is there a policy level shift, or, you know, is there what in the ecosystem can help?
No, so I think to sort of get better capital or get better rates, we need to understand the problem statement better. We need to understand the actual problems of what these farmers are going through. So for that stage, we are actually working directly with farmers at a more grassroots level to understand what they are doing and to sort of customize products for them. So we have a company, Dehat, which is one of the largest agri players in India currently. So we have actually funded more than 500 crores to these Dehat centers, who indirectly are supporting farmers that purchase from these centers. So what we are essentially doing is we are trying to get that grassroots level data, understand how these farmers operate, what is their repayment capacity, how are they sort of taking on debt, and how are they growing their business, basis which we are being able to customize these products and get them these sort of value-added products.
Great. I'm going to throw this question out to everybody, and we have not talked enough about policy. But is there something that in your journey in working with farmers on the ground that you have felt that, you know, is there a policy level unlock that would just help what you do grow much more dramatically? Please, sir.
The basic infrastructure, the water availability to the farmer, then the roads. The road condition is so poor when we want to send our eggs to Senegal or Nigeria. So from here to Mumbai, 5 to 10% eggs are getting broken. When we do shipment from here, we certify it here, and when we unload it at the airport, we have to replace the eggs or we have to replace the boxes. So road condition need to be good for the export promotion.
So maybe just so that faster movement, better movement, less wastage, as you were referring to, that along this journey.
The potholes in the road also.
Yeah, we do take a very long time to get from production to market. Yes. And especially for perishable and breakable things, that's a bit of a challenge.
I've seen 25 years, these are the same problems.
Right.
We used to take 5 to 6 hours. Yesterday also I came from Mumbai to here. It took 7 hours from Mumbai, Dadar to Nashik.
Right, that's true. Anyone else from your lens that you see that could potentially be a game changer?
At policy level, I would say governments moving away from direct financial incentive, let's say subsidy-oriented models to support local industries and let's say FPOs. It's instead better if the governments find ways to channelize that money better in the ecosystem, in the capacity development, rather than providing subsidies. Having personally seen such schemes working in states like Haryana, where they had a scheme where they were providing 70% subsidy for post-harvest infrastructure creation. So what I personally saw was that a lot of these commission agents from the mandis, they create FPOs out of other farmers just to get subsidies, and thereafter a farmer doesn't even know which FPO he belongs to.
Is there a better way that this could be done? Because, there's always, for example, Uber gave all of us in Mumbai 1 rupee rides to get us used to catching, downloading the app and using it, right? Is there a better mechanism that you think could help farmers try out new technologies with less upfront cost, whether it's post-harvest solutions, whether it's, mechanization solutions?
So there are solutions, but I would not say that there are any short-term solutions. Again, it's a lot of capacity building direction in which they need to go.
That would have larger impact.
That would actually need more enablers coming into the ecosystem than we have now.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else?
I think an effective crop insurance system is the need of the hour. It's there, but it's not really effective. And I think with a lot of this digitization and agri-stack and all, the cost of insurance, even if it is, and then when a farmer claims for insurance, he should get it today just away. It's not very effective.
It's not very serious.
And with climate risk, just that risk is going to go up. So I think if you want farmers to move up the value chain, they're going to have to take more risk, go to higher value crops, invest more on the farm, but then they're going to be calculating, whether it's worth it given the risk. So I think insurance still in this country is not very.
Okay, fair point. Yeah.
I'll just give a live example of a very pertinent regulation that's coming. European Union deforestation regulation.
Yeah.
It's going live on 1st of January in 7 commodities: wood, coffee, cocoa, palm oil, rubber, cattle, and soya. Now, ideally, if you look at other countries like Thailand, the ministry itself is saying that we are going to digitalize and make all the farmers compliant. What happens now? The Thailand farmers are able to sell their produce at a higher rate because now they are globally competing, and now they have compliant rubber, which compliant just means having the traceability data. Right. That's all. But ideally what should happen in India, our Central Minister Piyush Goyal ji estimated that we are looking at losses of $1.3 billion annually in these 7 commodities alone, beginning from next year. So what was our reaction? We were only making requests to delay the regulation. Ideally, but what happened among all these 7 commodities, Rubber Board came forth, and Rubber Board decided that we will do the job of empaneling companies like us, and we will now digitalize the farmers, and so that we don't have to prove our credibility or the urgency of the policy. It helps a lot. But is it the same story with other boards? What is the soya board doing? Absolutely nothing on this case. So there's a lot that can happen with policy when it especially comes to the export compliances.
Right.
Yeah, so that's definitely a doable thing.
Fair enough, yeah.
So just to add up on my side, at Purandar Highlands, we've always believed that we work only in the most professional. I mean, we work our FPC just like any other business. We want to be profitable, and we want to give back whatever maximum we can to in terms of dividends. On the government side, or I would say, government has been pushing FPOs since last 10 years, I've seen. But I think from what we have learned in our experience, we went into an FMCG sector. So we have spreads, juices. And FMCG sector is kind of a brutal. I mean, we directly compete with the biggest MNCs in the world on the same shelf when we go out in the market. And if we have to compete with them, either we have deep pockets, or either we do it for someone as a private label. And this happens because FPC directly cannot be a deep pocket, because then there are policy level, there are policies wherein there are some investments that can't happen in an FPC. And I think that is somewhere I wish as an FPC that we open up FPCs also as a better investment, so that FPCs can actually scale up grow at a parallel level against the FMCG brands.
Excellent. Lots of excellent points here. I'm going to turn around and see what questions that the audience might have and hope that the audience is not asleep out there. There's one gentleman right by the camera.
Good evening. I'm Monapa from the Nudge Institute. So I have a question to Mr. Rohan from Purandar FPC. You just said that there are some constraints for FPCs regarding certain investments, but the very reason for FPCs coming under the Companies Act was to make them as competitive and as any private company there. So could you explain that specifically? What is the challenge?
So for example, one of our clients in Germany, he wants to invest in our company, but he can't because there are policy level decisions that he should be an Indian farmer, he should be an FPC holder in India, and I think that is a deterrent factor, and same with other people also. So as I said, we have been bootstrapped till that, but we have been by choice bootstrapped because we wanted to scale our business in such a way that it is sustainable in the long run. But again, once we had a few people who now want to invest in an FPC like us, they cannot because they are not an FPC or they don't own any farm. So I think there are some points which I think can be better. I understand that the whole idea about FPC, that value chain should be created and it should not bypass the farmers. It should be through the farmers. This is what we also believe. But again, as I said, on one side, when the government is really promoting that processed food should be marketed, processed food should be exported, and at the same time, we end up in the same shelf or on a lower shelf in a supermarket out there, practical experience, we fought short of competing with the FMCG brands in the long run because it takes a lot of time again to build that brand out there.
Yeah, there's a limitation as to how much capital can go or where the capital can come from, and that obviously will limit what you can do there. Anybody else?
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि मैंने सुकृत जी से ट्रांसलेशन करके मालूमात की क्या चर्चा चल रही है। तो मेरा क्वेश्चन है, आपकी चर्चा बिजनेस बढ़ाने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए। तो मेरा सीधा एक कहना है कि बिजनेस बढ़ाने के लिए अगर मैं किसान हूँ, मेरा बिजनेस मुझे बढ़ाना है, तो मैं बोलूँगा मेरे पास खाली थॉमसन सीडलेस है और आप ले लो, वही खाओ आप, लेकिन आपको दूसरी चाहिए, दूसरी वैरायटी चाहिए। आपको जो चाहिए वो मैंने देना चाहिए। यानी कि किसान के लिए या कोई भी ग्राहक को क्या चाहिए ये देना है हमको। हम क्या करते हैं, मेरे पास ये है तू यही खा, मेरी ज़रूरत क्या है वो देखना है पहले। अगर मेरी ज़रूरत वो नहीं है, अभी इन्होंने भी बताया, एक उदाहरण दिया था, मेरा बच्चा बहुत अच्छा है लेकिन मेरे लिए अच्छा है, वो आपके लिए ये यूज़फुल है क्या नहीं वो देखना है। तो बिजनेस बढ़ाने के लिए छोटा सा फंडा है, तो इसके ऊपर आप क्या कहेंगे?
सही बात है।
If I can just start, sorry. So सर, आपने जो कहा अभी कि बिल्कुल सही है कि ग्राहक क्या चाहता है और फिर हम पीछे क्या कर सकते हैं उसके लिए, वो बात सही है। बट इसका एक अलग नज़रिया भी है जो मैं बोल सकता हूँ, क्योंकि जैसे कि इवन महाराष्ट्र के लोग भी नहीं जानते थे कि फ्रेश अंजीर पुरंदर में ग्रो होता है। मतलब इधर से हमारी शुरुआत थी कि ताज़ा अंजीर खाते कैसे ये भी लोगों को मालूम नहीं था, और लोगों को सूखा अंजीर मालूम था कि जो 100% इंडिया में इंपोर्ट होता था। अभी इसके लिए रीज़न है कि इंडिया का जो फिग है, अंजीर है हमारा पुरंदर का, वो ड्राइंग होता, उसकी कैपेबिलिटीज़ उतनी नहीं क्योंकि ब्रिक्स लेवल कम है, वाटर कंटेंट ज़्यादा है, तो ये कुछ चीज़ें थी। तो अगर हमको अंजीर फेमस करना था हमारा, तो हमने सोचा कि आइदर वी हैव टू प्रोसेस इट इन सम वे. तो प्रोसेसिंग कैसे कि चलो एक कैन वी ट्राई कि हम जूस बना सकते हैं क्या उसका, क्योंकि जूस एक ऐसा था कि जो अभी कोई अवेलेबल अंजीर का जूस मार्केट में था ही नहीं, नॉट कि इंडिया में ना कि फॉरेन मार्केट्स में ऐसा रेडी टू ड्रिंक जूस था. सो हमने उसमें ऐसी सोची कि ठीक है, भले बच्चा हमारा है, उसको अच्छा बोलना ही पड़ता है और कई बार उसको मार्केट भी करना पड़ता है कि ये सच में अच्छा है. तो आई थिंक कई बार हमको समझाना भी पड़ेगा मार्केट में कि हमारा प्रोडक्ट सच में अच्छा है, पर उसके पीछे ये भी बात आपकी सही है कि अगले 5 साल 7 साल में मेरे पास इनोवेशन क्या है और जो एक्चुअली ग्राहक की डिमांड है वो मैं किस तरीके से टैकल कर रहा हूँ. बट आई थिंक फर्स्ट कि हम कितने अच्छे हैं, हमारा प्रोडक्ट कितना मार्केट वैलिडेटेड है, एंड देन आई थिंक उसके अराउंड आपने जैसे बोला कि ग्राहक की क्या मांग है वो इस हिसाब से हम मार्केट करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे जूसेस जो है, जैसे दिल्ली और नॉर्थ इंडिया में जामुन ज़्यादा चलता है, पर जामुन के साथ हम अंजीर, लीची, गुआवा ये सब उनको दे देते. साउथ ऑफ इंडिया, मिड ऑफ इंडिया अगेन फिग्स ज़्यादा चलता है और उसके साथ हम बाकी जूस भी इंक्लूड करते. तो आई थिंक एक उसमें दोनों नज़रिया रखना पड़ेगा. अगर हम मार्केट कर रहे हैं हमारा प्रोड्यूस, तो उसको अच्छा बोलना ही पड़ेगा और उसको अच्छा बनाना पड़ेगा. अभी जैसे कि हमारा फिग जूस है, मैं क्यों उसका एग्जांपल लेता हूँ, क्योंकि we were one of the only companies in India to win an award at CIAL. So CIAL ग्लोबल इनोवेशन अवार्ड्स में रहते हैं, वहाँ पे 2 अवार्ड्स कोरिया को गए, 1 अवार्ड इंडिया को आया. दैट वाज फॉर द फिग जूस पुरंदर का. सो उसका वैलिडेशन हमने इंटरनेशनल मार्केट्स में किया और फिर डोमेस्टिक मार्केट में बताया कि ये वैलिडेटेड है ग्लोबल मार्केट में, एंड दिस इज़ फॉर द बेस्ट ऑफ द हेल्थ आउट देयर. तो इस तरीके से कई बार आपका मार्केटिंग स्ट्रैटेजी हमको बनाना ही पड़ेगा.
One more question, and then I need myths from everybody.
How can entrepreneurs convert ground realities into scalable or profitable businesses across agriculture sectors? That is my question.
To get into it first.
Good answer. Good answer. I'm going to do one last round of the rapid fire. And I think we've had all these panels talk about one myth here. So if you guys take 5 seconds and think about कौन सा myth है जो agriculture के बारे में होता है, which people should not walk out here with.
So I think the myth that you can't make money in agri takes time to give you returns, is an absolute myth. I think I'm going to take an example from your portfolio, Captain Fresh. We've seen that company started right before COVID. In 5 years, they figured out their supply chain, they figured out their buyers, they figured out the entire end-to-end sort of ecosystem, and they are already going public in 5 years. So I feel if you know the right product, you know what the customer requires, you actually execute properly. I don't think agri takes time to show these returns. It's definitely where investor interest is there.
Thank you. Absolutely. 5 years to IPO, I think, is a good journey.
One myth I would say when it comes to behavior change of farmers, generally people tend to think that a farmer is not very quick in adoption of new things. So I think that's not true.
Yeah.
If a product or a new way of doing things is demonstrated very well to the farmers in their situation, in their ecosystem, I think a farmer a farmer is not averse to basically adopting something new. They would very readily do it. If you show it to them very well, demonstrate the outcomes, they would adopt.
One myth I would like to is process means thanda matlab basi. Fresh means jinda murgi kat ke khaya to fresh hai. The way the unhygienic condition they cut and the processed product not competing with them because of the cost. The moment you process it, you have to have electricity, processing cost, hygienic way, all the laws, and again taxes. When you slaughter it on the roadside, no taxes, no hygienic, no FSSAI, no nothing, and we have to compete with that. Customer want this product, but customer want to pay the cost for the butcher product. And again, another myth is Shravan, Navratri, non-veg day, veg day is a big myth. Food is a food, protein is a protein, nutrient is a nutrient. So we have to see the nutrient requirement of the people, what is the protein requirement of the people. And abhi to naya fanda chalu ho gaya, 15 August, Independence Day, shop should be closed. So that is independence.
So true.
So Sunday ho ya Monday, रोज खाओ अंडे. और आवे सिखा दूँ तुम्हें अंडे का फंडा. That song we encourage put in the film. That is been sponsored by the industry.
That is true.
Just one line that technology, the myth is technology need not be dictating one way how everyone should work. Some example like Sahyadri Farms can dictate how advanced technology, that blockchain technology should be used. Yeah.
I just want to add up that this conference, this meet is happening at such a point in 2025 when we have actually passed those initial, I mean, in agriculture sector, 2020 and 2021 was kind of a fad that everyone wanted to be in agri-tech and agriculture. But I think post 5 years now, I think the most sustainable FPCs or companies are now surviving and doing better. And I think this conference happening at such a point, I think investors or new people starting up, I think this is the right time to see who has survived and how they have survived and where to invest.
Very good point.
I think one myth is that agriculture is a losing proposition. I think agriculture, you can make a lot of money. And even many of the government policies are treating farmers like they have to be protected. Like, you know, people cannot buy their land, only farmer can buy their land, you cannot sell in the open market, you know, all this type of thing. So we have to look at agriculture like any other economic activity. It is an economic activity. And if we open up the markets, we deregulate the markets, we deregulate the land market, I think many of these myths are old socialist myths which have to change.
Thank you, everybody. And on that note, I will thank all our panelists and the audience as well. I'm sure they're available for questions later. Thank you for all those good points.
Integrated value chain, playing on your strengths and having a multifaceted approach. With that, I would like to move to our next panel. But before that, we would like to play a video, a message from Honorable Shri Deependra Singh Kushwaha, IAS Development Commissioner, Industries and Chairman, Maitri. I would request the team to kindly play this video.
So the initiative taken by the Nashik Sandbox Digital Impact Square at Sahyadri Farms as Bharat Agrinnovation Manthan will create multiple opportunities for farmers to connect with the market, to connect with the investors, to upgrade the technology, and which will lead to the value addition into the agri and food processing product. As a government of Maharashtra, we are glad and we are happy to collaborate with this initiative to support the agriculture sector, Maharashtra government has released dedicated policy for export, logistic and agro and food processing industries. We are providing export related support, we are providing logistic supports, we are providing additional fiscal incentives, skill related, tech related, market related connects. We will provide all the necessary support through our single window system, through our policies and through our incentive package to the agriculture and agriculture related food and agro industries and investors in Maharashtra.
All right, with that, we'll begin our last panel for the day, after which we have something really exciting. We have planned your tour around Sahyadri Farms. The last panel would be around finance, driving profitability, and operational scale in agri value chains. So beyond tech, I think we have spoken quite a bit about tech. And why is tech necessary? But policy and finance discipline is really, really important to scale. For that, I would call upon stage Mr. Santosh Vatpade, CFO Sahyadri Farms, Mr. Madhukar Gavri, MD Om Gayatri Nursery, Mr. Jinesh Shah, Managing Partner Omnivore, Mr. Craig Gifford, Head of Private Equity Funds and Co-Investments, British International Investments, Ms. Kalyani Shinde, Founder of Godam Innovations. And this panel will be moderated by Sandeep Shinde, Head Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Startup Coach at Digital Impact Square.
Hey, check.
Good evening, everyone. I know all of you are excited to kind of get into a field, experience the India's largest horticulture value chain firsthand. But I think this day would not be possible to conclude without thinking about how do we really create a profitable value chain, right? And at the same time, how do we really balance the impact on the field? And I'm really glad to have a panel which can bring the perspective. So maybe I'll start with Santosh. Santosh, there was a conversation in the last panel where Rohan was actually addressing the question about, there is a need to change the policy about nobody can directly invest in the farmer-producer company and it limits, right? But I'm sure Sahyadri has solved this problem. So maybe you may want to talk about the structure which really helped you to unlock this possibility and scale. Maybe we can start with that.
Okay. Actually, Rohan tried to explain the limitation for the farmers-producer organization or farmers-producer company. But the act itself allowing certain exemptions where we can go beyond the limitations. So at Sahyadri, what we have did, the holding company, which is a farmers-producer company, certainly having the restrictions. However, we have created a subsidiary company, which is a post-harvest care limited, which is a operating company and operating entire post-harvest business. We have created this organization through a restructuring, through a demerger, through NCLT. It was the first time we approached to the NCLT and government bodies. It was a case study even for the government authorities, but obviously it was allowed, and we are having a public company which is a subsidiary company. We raised 2 subsequent equity rounds, first in 2022 and second Series B round in December 24. Together we raised almost 700 crores from our marquee investors like DFIs and other investors, and we are also looking for a further growth through this structure. So through a restructuring, through allowable instruments, we can get the private capital into agri space through a farmers producer company holding and keeping the farmer as a ownership.
No, excellent. So keeping farmer as a owner, but still you have a tool to kind of explore and scale also. Now with that, I think because you want to scale, maybe if you can throw some light based on your own experience at Sahyadri, where do unit economics breaks, right? Especially from profitability perspective when we are looking at scale. And are there any example at Sahyadri you pivoted, you really looked at it, and maybe some of those are very important from both, is for startup point of view as well as FPCs which are trying to scale, or investors who are trying to invest from the perspective?
Okay. Basically, it may be a FPC or maybe agri-tech. Actually, we are working in agri space. So we are bound to be impacted, same like grower being impacted. We are bound to be at risk where growers are at risk. So to mitigate that risk at Sahyadri, as Vilas sir explained in the morning, we have adopted multi-crop, multi-channel facilities where it may happen that in a particular product, particular channel, we may face loss due to the seasonality, due to the external factors, sometimes with the internal factors. But as an organization, we should be in the profit. Now, when we go to unit economics, I think the perishability and the seasonality is the major factor which is impacting the grower and even the post-harvest organization. A startup may be working in a upstream, downstream, wherever it is, but we cannot avoid this risk to the startups as well. So the cost like the logistic cost, perishable cost, the heavy working capital, intensive business, and the finance cost, it's required the great discipline on the finance side and on the where we are spending and what we are getting. Our believer, we are believers that whatever the operation cost of the product or the business segment, it should be funded by the product margin itself. If we are dependent on the finance or if we are dependent from the third-party capital to fund the operating cost, then I think we are leading to the challenge. And ultimately, as mentioned in the morning, the main stakeholder in value chain is a farmer. We consider farmer unit as a business unit. If my business is not adding the profitability to that stakeholder, then I think we are essentially working on a negative business model. That's our understanding at Sahyadri.
No, excellent. Maybe with that, I will come to Craig. Craig, how do you underwrite, some of these issues which is because of the climate, counterparty risk in Indian agri deals, while preventing commercial return as well as impact, right? So how do you really balance? And maybe if you are able to throw some light on some of the structures which are actually works on the ground based on your experience.
Sure. Just a quick introduction. I'm Craig from BII. I look after funds, so I'll answer it from a funds perspective, LP perspective. And just for those who are not aware, British National Investments, we're owned by the UK government. We're a development finance institution. We invest for impact, but also returns. So when we invest, the impact we're trying to have is through productivity, sustainability, and also inclusion. And so agriculture fits that really well. It creates jobs. The climate aspects of it are really critical in that. And also the inclusion part, both on sort of reaching low income, smallholder farmers, is really important in all that. But it also has to deliver a return in that. And we recognise the challenge there. So on one side, we address some of those issues internally. We have sort of, like I say, 4 pools of capital. You can't just address it with one. So we have what we call our growth capital, where we do want to make a risk-adjusted return there in US dollar terms. And so that's sort of the managers achieving 20, 25% gross IRRs on their investments, underwriting all the risks that you mentioned there. Then there are certain times where we would be happy to take on slightly more risk. I'll say it's around the volatility of those returns, where we see an outsized impact coming there. But as a DFI, we're happy to take that, and that will be often doing that directly. We do have some blended finance instruments as well, but we also have technical assistance, and that's actually really beneficial for us to look at things which can have a deep impact, but potentially a strong commercial outcome there as well. We go in there. We did one with Sayadri Farms where we helped provide technical assistance along with Sayadri Farms in their microalgae solutions for effluent treatment. It worked out well in the pilot. It's now scaled up a lot. But obviously, by on one side also reducing the effect on the environment, it also turned out that the biomass actually had a commercial prospects too around feed and fertilizer. And so that's the case where technical assistance actually helped them pilot something that they can then be good for the environment and commercial alongside our investments into Sayadri Farms through Incofin and also now through GEF as well. And so that's one side of it. The other side that we also want to do is also back sort of local fund managers who have those capabilities. For us, that's a really big thing. So investors in Omnivore, in Uncor as well, who really understand the agri-responsive space, can underwrite those risks for us and deliver those returns. And we put a lot on there. It's about capacity building around sort of environment, social, governance practices. Climate is a big thing. We're all learning it and how to mitigate all these risks there. And so things around the climate hazards, are the right things being identified and discussed in the diligence, because those can have a big impact on your returns longer term. Are the investors having those conversations, not in those conversations in the board, but actually is that part of the agenda of the board? So it's actually having the policies and the processes and the right people at the table to have that. So it's building firstly the GP's capabilities, but then the company's capabilities, having that go through there. We actually have workshops with all of our GPs and investees to actually share experiences on it, because it is a learning journey along that. And then the counterparty risk, look, there is counterparty risk everywhere. It requires extra diligence. And so for us, it is about going very deep to understand what are the pros and cons to that. You sometimes have to accept some level of risk there, but there's a lot that we can't accept as the UK taxpayers' money. And so that's something we spend a lot of time on, and also with our GPs. And so a lot of that's around alignment. How do you view the world, and how do you view some of these issues and challenges, so that you know your partners, when they're faced with difficult situations, can make the right decision there, and also be transparent back to us when mistakes do happen as well. That's also a key thing for us as well.
No, thank you. I think it definitely, it's not like a one approach, but it's a blend of multiple things. I think very interesting. Now maybe I'll move to Kalyani. So Kalyani, it's an orphan, right? From moving from pilot to, repeatable paid, checks, or maybe somebody who's paying for you, right? So how do you really create that predictable flow from beyond the pilot? Maybe if you can talk about that, because that's where most of the struggle happens whether it is an FPC who's trying to work on it, or whether it's an agri-tech startup who's trying to work on it. How do you go beyond the pilot where you have a predictable cash flow?
I think there are multiple parameters which we personally faced has been able to put that flow from pilot to payability. And one is, of course, the service that you're providing after the pilot. The customer support, or the relationship that you've built with your user, which not only comes from providing them a solution to solve their problem, but including them in a way where we have co-created the solution with them. So then the inputs that they've shared will be from a point of view that I think they've listened to me and they've tried to give me what I need, and then I don't mind paying for it. So that kind of a switch is what we've seen. It took us time to realize that after sales service is important. We faced those challenges. We've got harassment calls from farmers as well that, this has not worked, why your team has not been here. And after all of that, you have to realize that the other person, you don't realize how much that person is banking on you. Even if it is a pilot, they are really banking on you that your solution will help me with something that will impact me, that will reduce my losses, that will help me earn more money. And they are looking at it more quantified, in a more quantified way than you're looking at it. Of course, the metrics would be different, but they are looking at it that way. So one is, of course, the after sales support and the customer support that you have. Secondly, I feel, I would say the path or trust relationship that you go to them with.
Like, I'll just give an example because we are here in Sahyadri. Initial pilots when we had, the initial early adopters that you have will not be on the trust of you, but they will be in the trust of some other partner who is banking on you. Like Sahyadri, when Sahyadri is connecting me to 10 different FPOs which in their network, they are trusting Sahyadri and hence they are trusting me. So I think when partnering with somebody who has already built that trust and then you go through that channel, it becomes easier to move that path.
No, very interesting. One is about, just don't deploy and forget about it. You have to be there with your user, buyer. And two, you said the trust is important. How do you really build an ecosystem or bank on ecosystems where trust is already created? Now, maybe with that, I'll come to Jinesh. Jinesh, you've seen the both side, right? And you've actually worked with multiple startups as well as, FPO engaged with them also. But what all typically red flags you see, where investment breaks, right? Maybe you can throw some light on that.
Sure. Thanks, Sandeep, and thanks, Sahyadri, for inviting me here. In terms of red flags, those are simple, right? I mean, we tend to keep things simple. Because let's say whenever someone comes to talk to us about seeking investment, they would make tall claims. Saying that I'm going to do this revenues, I have got this farmers. I think the best red flag is to figure out what the person has been saying. Is it actually happening, right? Most of the time the entrepreneurs assume that investors will not go in the field to figure what's going to happen, right? They think going to a small village near Jalgaon, people will not go, but unfortunately we go there, right? So you come to know what's happening on that. So that's easy of finding. Second is we take time, right? I think entrepreneurship as a journey is a very slow and very patient journey. It tests the patience to a large extent. So we tend to wait to get to know what the promoter or the entrepreneur has been saying, whether it's a FPO or a startup entrepreneur. And over the period of time, we realize whether it's happening or not. So that's something there, right? And third red flag is something when someone comes and say, I know everything. I think if everything you know, then why are you here, right? Don't ask money from me. I mean, you should have made your company large, right? So that's a third flag thing you do. Then basically those are financial factors you look, right? People look at the gross margins, contribution margins. We tend to talk to promoters, whether they truly understand contribution margin, they truly understand EBITDA margins. Because whether you like it or not, those are hard facts and those are requirements for anyone to scale business. Other aspect what we look in red flag is saying that has the person has a thought about creating value add, right? I mean, simple example. I mean, a lot of time we say that farmers don't make money. I mean, farmers don't make money because they don't do value addition, right? They produce and they expect people to do the job after that. I mean, why would anyone do the job after that? Farmer thinks that their job is not to, the produce is the last thing, right? But their job is to make the product reach to the end consumer, right? Then because they will start cribbing about saying, okay, I have too many middlemen, someone's taking my margin. But boss, if you keep improving every year some bit, I think you will improve. So we expect the same thing from promoters as well, from entrepreneurs. Are you thinking of creating an integrated business? I mean, these are the simple red flags we look around it.
No, very interesting, and these are real fact, right, and hard fact, and one has to, irrespective of sector, has to stick to it, right? Maybe on that, one more question I have for you is on towards the policy. How do you see, right? So definitely in the journey of any innovations or maybe technology or startup or be it any entrepreneur who's trying to bring change in the agriculture sector, you need a patience capital also, right? So do you have any thought about where do you think that policies can play a role along with the investors? It could be impact investors as well as the investors who are focusing on early or late stage. But where do you see that policies or administration to play a role to really strengthen this particular journey for any innovation to be deployed and scale also? So if you are able to put some thoughts on the early and some thoughts on the scale point of view also, where do you see policies can really play an important role for scale point of view?
I think I'm making some controversial statement just to begin with. I mean, if the government keeps out of agriculture, farmers and people will solve the problems. I mean, that's the first utopian, but that's not a practical solution. Look, I think in terms of policies, I think government needs to focus where they really want to help, right? I mean, in some cases, they are going to give free power to farmers. They're giving subsidies for solar pumps. They're giving some subsidies in terms of MSPs. But at the same time, whenever the farmer gets a chance to make more profits in terms of there is a big increase in the price of and that leads to inflation, government will curb that sales to the or export out of it, right? I mean, and whether it's UPA government or the NDA government, they've been at fault of stopping farmer make more money when they get a chance to make money. I mean, this is the only one sector where if the stakeholders are making more money, the government will say, please don't make money. Because you cannot make money, it's a crime, right? Everyone expects the entire country to grow at a GDP of 8-9%, but for farm sector, 3%, 4% is a great thing, right? I mean, that is the big challenge in this sector. While farmers are to be blamed, I think the government is equally to be blamed, right? So if government can prevent itself from getting involved in doing export bans, I mean, they want farmers to make 3 or 4% profit every year. That's the increase they want, but they don't want. But for the rest of the country, they are fighting to get 20% profits. Every large enterprise wants higher policy support. I mean, Sahyadri Farms is an exception in terms of successful stories of the farmers. Amul is another exception around it. But I think it's mainly because of the government involved. So if the government can stop intervening when there is an increase in food prices, I think that's a great thing to happen from agriculture perspective. I'm not getting into political aspects of the business, right? I mean, I'm just talking from farmers' perspective.
No, excellent. No, these are definitely ways to look at, right? How can really help farmers and let it be as per the market than controlling the market, right? Maybe Santosh, with that, I'll come to you on the policy. What all those policy intervention really helping also in terms of when you are trying to scale to export and other markets, do you have any examples which are really helping maybe state as well as central government?
No, the sector-wise there are like various incentive and support scheme from the state government and the central government as both. If you can see even from the industry perspective, Kushwa sir was supposed to be here today, but he could not. Even for the processing industries, the state government is also participating up to 50 crores for the export incentives or the capital subsidies. Rastogi sir has mentioned few initiatives that they have taken for the AI and the agri startups. Even for the food processing of the India, they are having certain schemes and the supports for the, it's not related to the FPO, it's like entire food industry. And even the central government is coming with the Startup India program. So there are many schemes which are like supporting to enable and to scale the business. Government is actually participating as a capital and trying to reduce the risk for the businesses. There are long list, we cannot discuss that list, but yes, there is like support from the government for many stages.
So excellent. So you are saying for export, you could have up to 50 crore. Some of those schemes can really help you out. Now, coming back to Craig. Craig, you heard Kalyani talk about, how she's actually trying to work with farmers, and it's not only about selling product, but taking it forward. But maybe if you are able to look at from, if you're able to throw some light on maybe some of the governance and practices which at board level, very, very important from the scale point of view, which is also keeping both profit and impact in the mind. So are there some guidelines or maybe observations you have, especially from the governance and practices point of view for both, whether it is FPO or whether it is startup who's trying to work on it?
Sure. I think it's probably fairly standard, but I think it's sort of it starts off with your board composition. Who's on your board? Do you have independents there? What are the composition of that board? So do you have the right capabilities, be it on the financing side, on the if it's a specialist area in agri, do you have the right people there? Even on the ESG side and the climate side, you have people there who can ask and the relevant questions to make sure you're on track and thinking in the right way. And then it goes down to having the right board subcommittees there. The audit, you may have an ESG committee if that's really critical, if climate change is really critical to your journey and making sure you're mitigating that. Do you have a subcommittee around that? So it's around those areas. Obviously, always important to have a strong financial control function there and competencies around that, the reporting around that. And also make sure that there is the right policies in place, and also that if there are any issues coming up, that they get to the board quickly, so the right sort of communication channels and the transparency about what's really happening there. So I wouldn't say there's anything that we wouldn't expect in other businesses there. And the other thing as well for us is sort of the farmers and the supply chain that's going through that. That's really important, because in a lot of these businesses, if that doesn't work well, the rest of the processing businesses just does not work. And so just making sure that they are thinking about how they're having an impact on the people's lives at the bottom, for us is really important. And as other GPs know, a lot of our questions are around sort of how are their lives changing and improving, because if that's not happening, then you potentially have a high risk on your supply chain as well. So that's something we go into and just make sure that actually that's happening in practice.
No, excellent. Maybe quickly to Kalyani. Kalyani, imagine you have 1 crore. Now, maybe it could be an equity or it could be a, impact fund. Where you will deploy it to maximize both profitability and impact?
It's a tough question to answer. I think that answer changes as and when the journey goes for the startup. But I think today, if I have to look at the stage where we are and we have to invest that money, we would look at sales ops as the first header to invest in. We need to have a good pipeline and invest in a good team and a distribution network where we can, so that the product can reach the scale we are expecting it to be at. And secondly, I think would be in research, not from a project perspective, but to keep making your product a better use case. Now today, as we are working with the onion crop ecosystem and we are now planning to venture into poultry, we have to keep investing in that sector as a company, because I think sir also talked about that if you want to look at scalability and profitability, it will not come with one crop. So you have to have multiple venues for your company to grow. So I would like to invest in that so that I have some other path to fall on, because as we all know, if you're working with onion, there is government involvement, there is seasonality of the crop. So I need to look at some other use cases where the product can reach a stage which will give me better cash flows and also sort of build the crux of the image of the company that we're trying to build, which is warehousing and at its core. So that's what we're doing.
No, good. I think building on you, maybe I'll ask Santosh a question. Santosh, often there are dilemmas, right? And that's what we are seeing in the startup world. I'm scaling and I'm burning, right? And but I think there is a different philosophy Sahyadri has been working, right? And could you please give some example where while scaling you looked at where this profitability is compromised and you pivoted, right, to ensure that both profitability is taken care and as well as impact on the farmer, right?
Okay. So one aspect is obviously, which is Craig highlighted, is the corporate governance. While building the business, we forget about the corporate governance and discipline. That I think that is the one missing point. The second point is that we are in agriculture when we want to increase the profitability to the farmer, give affordable food to the consumer. Actually, we are working on a very thin margin. And that is with a risk like perishability, seasonality, the working capital, the capital intensive business, to manage entirely together, if we don't have a discipline, corporate governance as well financial discipline, then we are bound to go for the negative bottom line. And sometimes we need to adopt the business. As Kalyani mentioned, we need to change also how to reach to the customer. If we want to put the example from the Sahyadri, I think in 2018, 2019, 20, we had started B2C business segment, tried to reach to the customer, and a B2B business segment as well. It was a B2B e-commerce platform. Actually, we were trying to do what all other agri startups were doing at that particular time. But we soon realized that a particular business model was not adding to the value to the farmer, neither adding value to the consumer, and it was already burning to the company because of the logistic cost, fixed manpower cost, the perishability, which is adding the operating margin, operating cost, and third is about the credit discipline. Our objective was obviously to reach to consumer with the affordable fruit. After this realization that this business model cannot add up the value to the entire value chain, we changed our route. Okay, at that time our business was around, say, that particular supply chain business was around 100 crores. Last year we reached almost 450 crores. Current for this year 26, we are chasing around 1,000 crores from the supply chain business. The business itself is now at the profitable at gross margin level. It is profitable at the bottom line as well. That means same business now, even financing your working capital cost, financing your credit risk as well. And so our objective didn't change. We didn't compromise on the product or objective that we want to reach to the consumer. We just changed the route. Instead of following what industry were doing, we tried to identify, an objective was the same, that first we should give the value addition to the farmer. I should be able to provide the market access to the farmer. But that cannot be cost on the product margin. Product has to be fund is operation cost. That is simple funda at the Sahyadri. So with that changes, just changing the route, we could like change the business model. And I think that is now one of the major segment in Sahyadri itself, which Tushar Jagtap is leading. So I think, and now there is no cap for the business. It's not the product agnostic now. I can add any product into it. Recently we added turmeric also in the same business line, and that also doing fantastically. Technology, yes, it is using technology. The same market we are pitching. So changing the route at some time, understanding the core funda instead of going for the what investors are saying, what market is practicing, what is actually value creation, that is learning we got to that particular segment.
Excellent. I think this is, sometimes we keep doing things, we believe that, this may be the right and we continue, but I think some point of time you have to stop and reflect on and pivot as required. And even at that scale, right? You were saying you were at 100 crore, but still we reflected on, and within a couple of years again got back to the profitability. Maybe we'll give more time to audience to ask questions. So maybe while whoever has a question can raise the hand. Maybe I'll have a quick question for all of them. Maybe one thing we should avoid doing to be profitable, right? So maybe each one of you. So one thing. And maybe Craig, you can add impact also into it. One thing we should avoid, whoever it is, whether it is investor, whether it is a startup founder, one thing we should avoid to ensure that we are profitable.
I think to miss out on the ethics and the right approach, I think you should miss out. I mean, you could be getting short-term profits, but long-term it's a loss. So that's what I will avoid it.
I would say not just focus on growth at all costs just because your investor base want that. I think you really have to focus on building a business that's actually going to become profitable and sustainable in that way. I've seen that too many mistakes that way.
Okay, I think the great corporate governance and strict financial discipline should be like at the forefront, and then we should go for the scaling.
Mine is from a very startup perspective, but these are basically from our failures than more. One would be not to bank your solution or your product scaling on subsidies and government grants. That would be first. And secondly, I think in social startups we sort of become impact driven, but at the core, you should not forget that at the end, aap dhandha chala rahe ho aur usko dhandhe ki tarah chala. Sorry, that's
excellent. Great. So if you have any questions, happy to, yeah. And there's one there, one there. Anybody else?
Beyond technology and money, what is broken in value chains that stops farmers from making a profitable business, and why is it isn't been fixed?
I think the problem is that farmers are not wanting to do at the farm gate. आप जो खेत के नज़दीक कर सकते हो, जैसे सिंपल चीज़ है, you can do grading, you can do sorting, primary processing तो कर सकते हो. In most of the cases, secondary processing, right? In most of the villages in India, I mean, there is some food processing unit, but farmer would wait for some broker to come and collect it and give it to the processing unit. Farmers are the biggest reason they are not profitable. So farmers need to start doing things, doing more work beyond just producing foods. That is the reason.
Just adding to Janesh's point, I think we were just discussing about this and I was telling the same thing, that we making ourselves, victimizing ourselves from a point of view that the narrative has to change from depending on government for subsidies, depending on loan cancellations. But today I think the challenge is, let's say for example in my business what I've observed is, if you are running farming as a business, you need to know how much you lost last year, how much you invested in last year. Today, what is your profit percentage from last year? And if you ask, like let's say I'll give you an example, when you used to talk with farmers on field, if I used to go them and meet them today, like, okay, how much crop did you lose last year? Once they'll say 15%. Next time I'm visiting them, they're talking about 25%. You know, you cannot have this. Then how will you make profit and earn money from this? You know, so that narrative has to change.
Santosh, you want to add? Yeah. So maybe we'll take another question.
Good evening, Monappa from the Nudge Institute. So my question is to Ms. Kalyani. Ma'am, you said that you all started with onion and now you all are diversifying to poultry, or was it something else? Question is, why, I mean, tomato, onion, potato go as a bouquet, right? High frequency, highly consumed, highly volatile. So why have you not chosen to expand in this portfolio versus completely take something orthogonal like poultry?
It's a beautiful question. I think before only I'm answering, which I'll answer to the investors probably in the next session. So there are multiple reasons. As a startup, we have to focus. Whenever I want to scale now, I spent so much time in understanding the onion value chain and building a product from scratch. And now we are in a position where we're trying to make some revenue out of that. I want to get into an ecosystem where it is a little easier for me now to scale, to make money and to make an image. So probably the reason to choose poultry would be, one, I have identified right partners who would be able to help me understand the ecosystem better. It is a much organized sector than the other spaces that I'm going to enter into. And there's money. It's not a seasonal aspect where, you know, so that will give me the confidence to go from probably 10 to 100. And then when I am at that stage and I am able to manage that, then probably we'll be entering into. So we are planning to get into grains and potatoes also. But right now, what is at hand is poultry, and that makes more sense for me as a business, and hence I'm doing it.
Any other question? Okay, I think we as a panel on time. So thank you very much, everyone, for being amazing panelists and sharing a lot of insights. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adivya. Thanks.
Team, if you can stay back for the picture. Thank you so much. I guess amazing insights from each one of you and amazing questions from our audience. Can we have a huge round of applause for the team, please? Before we move towards a very exciting phase of the event, we have a very small video by Honorable Shri Praveen Gedam sir, who has been a visionary and someone who has been very instrumental in shaping the agriculture at state level and also shaping our city, Nasik. So can we please play the video?
Namaskar, dear investors, startups and innovators, farmers, and everyone associated with agro and agro-based industry. My name is Praveen Gedam. I am Divisional Commissioner of Nasik. Apart from usual crops such as cereals and pulses, we are India's leader. This region is leading as far as onions, grapes, bananas, and such other crops are concerned. Based on this region has witnessed tremendous growth in agro-based industry. We also have a very good initiative that is AgriStack. Over and above India's initiatives in digital public goods such as Jam Trinity and UPI, which is going to lay the foundation for agro-tech industry. We also have this exciting innovation center called Digital Impact Square, funded by Tata's. And this combination probably provides this place to be the next Silicon Valley of India as far as agro-tech is concerned. I am very happy to welcome you to Nasik for this Bharat Agri-Innovation Manthan, which is jointly hosted by Government of Maharashtra and its various arms and Digital Impact Square and Sahyadri Farms.
Can we please clap? Why do I have to tell every time? Come on. Okay, with this, another important part of this entire Manthan is also to see things happening in action at Sahyadri's plant. So we have planned for a visit at Sahyadri's plant, but all of you will create few groups and we'll lead you in groups. As of now, we have the bus which is standing just outside this hall. Get into the bus, we'll get down at the plant and then form groups. Before that, if you quickly want to grab up your tea, coffee, snacks, please do that and get into the bus. Thank you.